Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. We are coming at you live with Shadowcaster Network, bringing you the tales of the sordid misadventures of House Nymaryen, our own artisanal blend of Dornish arrogance and Targaryen arrogance. And we're going with this as the recurring theme is arrogance, but well-deserved arrogance because our young heroes have returned from King's Landing, where their coming out party made quite a splash, and they have caught the eye of all Westeros. They have done Grandfather Maekar Nymaryen, the lord of their house, proud. They have heaped wealth and glory and honor onto the family name. They have prevented dishonor by quelling scurrilous accusations of all sorts of murder and stuff. It's just been a pretty good trip that took 22 episodes for us to wrap up because they had to deal with a lot of shit. It was King's Landing, you guys. Bad stuff happens there. But they are now safely returned to Wyvern's Rest, the seat of House Nymaryen. They're most of the way atop the peak of Wyvern's Peak, just about the midpoint along the Stone Way, which is so littered with corpses it is sometimes called the Bone Way, one of the major highways into Dorne. And they're home, and they had a feast last night, welcoming them home. Everybody got to change into comfy Dornish clothes. That's always nice. Putting on your PJs and slippers and stuff. Everybody got an exposition dump from the mysterious hedge knight, Woolly Will of the Bells, who, it turns out, had been Sir Willem Derry, the Master at Arms of the Red Keep under King Aerys Targaryen, second of his name, and that he had been living in secret all this time, harboring the secret bastard of King Robert Baratheon, Orys, the Squire. So you guys kind of got the backseat fortsy on how that happened and why they were scared to tell anybody ahead of time, especially Orys, because Orys might have just fucking walked up to Robert and like started punching or some shit. Like, how'd you do this to my mother? You know, who knows? So it was a whole thing. But when last you guys saw them, Woolly Will was just nursing a bloody nose, which is no big deal to him. Bessa of Flea Bottom was stuffing cheddar jalapeno rolls down his gullet. So really, it was a good day for him, all in all, because she invented cheddar jalapeno rolls. Um, Orys had approached the high table, giving a kind of conciliatory look to young Adam Nymaryen, and everyone thought that there might be a series of apologies and makeups on the way. But then you were interrupted by a rider in the colors of House Martell, your liege lord, who announced rather hastily that the Red Viper, Prince Oberyn Martell, was on his way and would be here by dawn. So, we're cutting to a quick little kind of cutscene, haphazard activity where I'm also catching the PCs off guard by this. But the messenger was Prince Oberyn's squire, Daemon Sand, who was a bastard of House Illyrian, and is not. He's a few years older than the twins. It's kind of 22, 23-ish. In my head, because he's described as pretty and as a fine swordsman, I'm thinking kind of Ben Barnes, the guy that played Prince Caspian and then played in the Punisher. He
That's
was
Ben Barnes.
yeah, that's that actor. Yeah, that's what I said. But yeah, so Ben Barnes is kind of I picture him, and he has announced that Oberyn Martell is on the way, and then the house descends into stately, organized Valyrian chaos because grandfather must make ready. This is still a visit from a royal family in Dorne. Yes, your grandfather refers to Prince Doran as his nephew, and Prince Doran refers to you lot as his nieces and nephews, in a familial way that doesn't quite exactly match up, but it's a sign of affection, and you guys are related to them. Um, but it's still a goddamn prince coming to call. So, your feast is cut into a whirlwind of activity. Uh, Oris is kind of dragged away to go help see to stables and stuff. He gives Adam a longing look of like, sorry, we'll talk later, right? As he shuffles off with some of the other knights, and you lot are sent on a variety of short errands to kind of work as like senior management in the house of cleaning and prepping and making sure that the guest chambers are new. And it's only after all of that's done and everyone's going to bed at like 2 or 3 in the morning and you guys are retiring to your chambers that you guys are all able to kind of take stock of your chambers because Adam and Luke, you didn't have chambers anymore. You had both been gone for years and years, and you're like, hey, I just remembered that, like, I took a bath in a bathroom type of thing, and, like, they brought me fresh clothes, but I haven't actually been to my room yet. But we're going to start with the twins because they do still have rooms. Grandpa didn't get rid of all your stuff when you were gone for like 6 weeks. Um, so let's start with the oldest, uh, Felicia. I meant the oldest out of character, but this also kind of works. So my bad. Uh, so just, but let's start with Reina and with Felicia, my lovely bride who is in the prime of her life. Who are you? Who is your character? What does your room kind of look like? And like, what were your thoughts while you tried to sleep last night? And then we'll just kind of work our way through the chain. So we're going to do our introductions and also our kind of night of tossing and turning preparation all in one go.
Alright, so I'm Felicia, Rusty's lovely bride who's in the prime of her life. I play Raina Nymaryen, heir to the House Nymaryen, and one half of the eldest twins of the house. We are also in the primes of our lives, actually, the primes. Like 19. And my room is. I picture her chamber with a rather large bed and lots of like curtains around it, like a canopy bed, and with flowy curtains all around it. That way she can close it, and then servants can come and go in the room, and she's fine. And I hadn't actually planned any of this, so I'm trying to think what else she might have in her room. Um, she has a place where she keeps her armor and her sword and her shield, her new shield, and that's kind of in one corner. And then there are windows that open onto a balcony, but it's not like a patio. You know, I figure grandfather's probably got like a patio on his suite, but that's not his. That's not my suite. That's his. I have a balcony.
Yeah, just like a small one. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and and again, lots of flowing curtains. It's good for catching breezes, especially in high summer. Um, and I have a desk, which is actually just a table. And like where grandfather's is heavy and solid. Mine is a little more delicate looking, where the legs aren't as thick and there's little filigree carved into it, little wyverns. Um, and that desk has my parchment, my inkwell, my everything I need, my little scripts for ravens, my wax, and where I keep my stuff, my official. This is where I write things down. Um, I have my own little map of the region, uh, but that is it's like my placement. Like on desks now, you have like a little placemat where you have like a desk, but instead she's got a map. books stacked on the corner. And that's it. And I tossed and turned a lot because they're coming here and I don't know why, and it can't be good. There.
All right then. Who's up next? Felicia gets to choose.
I will go actually with Adam because I'm interested to see what's in his room.
I'm not done yet. This was
Well,
sprung on me.
fine,
I'm
I'll go to
still
Luke.
coming up with it.
All right, Luke, he's in your room.
Push to talk, Luke. No,
Me?
I still can't hear you.
Robert, you are up next. He has acknowledged the message, but refuses to answer. He's going Nick Fury.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, now it's working.
I had to tell Discord again what I was using for an input device. So, okay, what I was gonna say was, let's be realistic. Luke is about 18 or so. He's basically a prince here. He's got a lot to drink. We last saw him. He was flirting with some girls. He's probably not alone. He wakes up in his room he barely paid any attention to last night. I'd imagine his armor has been put up on a stand by some unnamed squires. Hopefully he'll learn who they are at some point. Kind of a basically a bed that once had a number of pillows and soft, very fancy sheets, probably nicer than anything he had back at King's Landing, strewn about. And I kind of imagine it opens up into a kind of like sunny square, kind of like the render I was working on. So kind of like a little pool area and some fountains, and kind of goes into that area. Lots of light coming through that can be shut out when needed. It's it allows a nice cool breeze to come through. Architecture in Dorne probably has a lot of open areas for exactly that. And he's probably waking up and taking a few minutes to remember what the big deal about last night was. And then he remembers, oh, that shit to do. And, yeah, he's going to go from there.
All right, who is up next?
I'll go next so that Adam can have longer to plan out
Barely done.
his room. I'm Erica, and I'm playing Bela Nymaryen. I am the younger twin sister to Rhaena. So having been here essentially all my life, I have a little bit more established of a room, and I picture it at the end of like one of the long corridors, and the room is circular in nature with three of the sides being more open, or at least having large windows with balconies, and one side having a really small kind of place I could sit out on that overlooks the pool outside. The center of the room, on the floor, there's this giant rug in reds and House Nymaryen colors and silvers, in a really nice design, kind of like the centerpiece of the room. Against the wall, my bed is similar to what Rhaena was describing, so like curtains all around the bed. There is nice pillows, but it's a little bit more meager in size. It's not like enormous, so it's enough for a person or two to be in it, but that's about it. I have opposite the bed 2 mannequins holding armor and weapons, one of which being the signature set that I wore for the joust, with the really stylized helmet with the facial features and the plumage, and the nice design. And the other one being a little bit more everyday kind of armor, like just a breastplate, that kind of stuff. There's weapon stands for the regular weapons that I have, like the longbow, the swords, the battle axe that I have, and then there's like a really special mount for Sunspear that's set up like right next to one of the open windows as well. I don't have any like writing implements in my place. I do in the
Saw
very
that coming.
in in the small amount of wall space that I have left. I do have a map of like the region around us, just so that I can think tactically when I want to look at the area for strategic type thoughts about defenses, attacks, planning, patrol routes, things like that. But it's nowhere to like really write anything down to do any official business, because any business I would need to take care of, I could just go out to our soldiers and guards and talk with them and make the plans there. So I feel like there's one other detail I was gonna add, but I can't think of it. So that's pretty good.
I mean, I'm assuming that there's like an adorable teddy bear collection, you know, because Baylor's so girly and all.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep that a mystery for now, and any potential suitor who comes might get a chance to notice those sorts of things.
The heap of Dornish porgs, all piled up all around the feet of the mannequins, bristling with weapons and armor and stuff.
He's saying that because of this shirt that I'm wearing today, and the fact that I have a lot of pork plushes.
Yes, because of that shirt and like the 800 other porg things that we see just about every week.
I don't know what that
yes.
means. And so finally, of course, my thoughts on the dinner interrupted. I'm excited to see our relatives, Prince Doran and the others, and I'm excited to see what he has to say. Well, one about the emergency or whatever reason he's coming here, but also seeing if he's heard about our performance at King's Landing, and if it's important enough for him to be here. There's a small chance I might get to do some fighting with him, and I'm really looking forward to an opportunity to impress him with my fighting.
All right, and that leaves Adam.
Yeah, just perfect timing. Right, so sorry. Rusty could have told me that I needed to come up with a description of this, like before today. Right, Adam has a corner room in the castle. Well, he has been given that. I'm presuming like he probably had a smallish room before he left because he was 8. But now that he's older, he's been given a bigger room. So it's in the northwest corner. So it's looking over the hills in the west and the cliffs to the north. So it's got less of the bright light and kind of oppressive heat that the south and east sides of the castle would get, to make it more comfortable for what he's used to, basically. Sectioned off by screens near the north windows is a deep claw-footed bath because he likes to luxuriate, and on it's kind of semi-open plan. There's like 2 walls that have open arches that lead onto a kind of curved balcony that's kept private by kind of folding screens that have got kind of ornate carvings in them. And on the balconies there's like big potted succulent plants and palms and ferns in like massive like terracotta pots, and it's got like a couple of kind of comfy kind of chaise longue type benches for sort of lounging in the like in the sun to read a book and stuff. He has a wall. A third wall is lined with bookcases, just full of lots of different types of books and scrolls and things. And a kind of little sort of shallow alcove kind of cut into the middle that has a rosewood writing desk. His bed's in the center of the room, facing towards the west windows, with tall, kind of ornate posts that support a kind of teal-colored gossamer canopy. And it's kind of sort of strewn with cushions and jewel tones, like mostly blues, greens, purples. It's very plush because he likes to be comfortable. And the fourth wall has the door and shelves with ornaments and a dresser for like his jewelry and his perfumes and stuff, and the wardrobes that contain his clothes. And he'll have kind of, because he's like basically considering himself a grown up now, has also kind of installed a little kind of drinks cabinet. He wants to start entertaining.
All right. What was going through Adam's mind last night?
Right, well, I mean, they don't really usually send a Martell prince to your door for nothing, so he's probably quite concerned about what's going on, worried about whether it's basically trouble, which he will probably catastrophize and think it probably is trouble. Will be kind of a bit frustrated that he didn't get to talk to Oris, though kind of encouraged that at least Oris didn't tell him to fuck off or anything. So he'll have considered that, like, that's maybe a good sign, but so yeah, he'll have been quite kind of anxious about what this kind of new development means. So will probably not be kind of resting as easily in his plush new room as he might have been otherwise.
All right. Well, you are all awakened very politely, but firmly by manservants, which you know has to be on Grandpa Makar's orders. And it's still dark out. The servant said, or the squire, excuse me, Damon said, by dawn. So grandfather's plan, as was made clear to everyone, was like we'll be ready before dawn, and we'll try to be prepared for this royal visit, and show that Wyvern's Rest is, their bastion here in the Stoneway. So you're awakened. Everyone's got a few minutes to get cleaned up, get ready, get dressed. You awaken rather pleasantly to the sounds of breakfast cooking, or the smells of like breakfast cooking. One of the upsides of the airy halls is that the cool breezes that waft throughout, like, also are filled with Dornish spices and all that all the time. Not just whatever greasy swill was being prepared back at the Green Tree in King's Landing, or far away from the kitchens, like Luke in your years in the Red Keep. Like the flowing kind of architectural style that lets the breeze through means you guys are like, oh yeah, no, like this definitely smells like Dorne. Like this is home. You've got that type of cooking going on, and the kitchens, of course, got up even earlier than you lot to make sure that breakfast was ready as you all awoke. So yeah, you make your way into the hall, which is where you're assuming everyone's going to be meeting up. And sure enough, Bessa is already there. She seems to have found time to change because she's now in a kind of flowing Dornish lowborn garb, in that it's still appropriate small folk wear like the rest of the kitchen staff have, but it's on Bessa, so it fits in a way that is perhaps aesthetically pleasing, but not quite how it's designed to be worn, because she is rather larger in lots of ways than your average Dornish small folk. So it's perhaps a little distracting to a few of the other kitchen staff, and Dorne being
Lester,
Dorne. Yeah. What's
When
up?
we turn this part into the podcast, can we get the rights to fat bottom girls right here?
I don't.
Is that within our budget?
I don't think
That
we're
will
gonna
be-
be
that will
able
be
to play
expensive.
that. Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
gonna
don't
knock.
think that'll be-
It sounded like
So she seems to have just made herself perfectly at home in the kitchens, and you do see that your kind of wizened old man that everyone's just called Cook or the Cook, um, or sarcastically, if you had to work in the kitchens as punishment when you were young, it was Master Cook. Um, he is like seems pretty content with Bessa showing up and kind of grabbing the reins. Like he hasn't been snapping at everyone and wielding his cane the way he used to. He's been the scourge of Wyvern's Rest for decades. He doesn't seem to have aged in the time that any of you have been alive. But it looks like Cook has just been like I can die now. This buxom woman is taking my place. But he seems to just be letting Bessa, you know, cluck her way through the kitchen staff and keep everybody moving. And yeah, you've got this fine Dornish breakfast, which isn't a particularly heavy meal, but it's ready to go. It's spiced eggs and some spiced kind of hash browns, basically, and then a sweet watered down wine from the Nymaryen stocks. So you're starting the day right. Good spicy stuff and a little bit of booze. And there's grandfather.
yeah, Luke
looking
is definitely
like
going
he-
strong on the wine.
Yeah. And then at the head of the hall is grandfather, looking like he never left. You're pretty sure he must have, because he is wearing a different outfit that he did last night for the feast, but he's seated there with that sense of certainty and finality that he is seated everywhere. Like it looks like he was in the hall before anybody else got here. This is his hall. It's got that sense to it. So there we are. You've got some breakfast. You've got some wine. Grandpa's waiting up there, and there you go.
Luca is eating his food, drinking the wine, and it looks like he didn't sleep at all, probably an hour. So, but he is dressed nicely. He has cleaned himself up. He's just being very antisocial at the moment, kind of glaring at everybody.
All right. How about everybody else?
I'm gonna take some food and head on up to grandfather and see how he's doing this morning. See what his thoughts might be. Good morning,
Sorry,
grandfather.
Awful timing for my yawn, not
Yeah.
his.
Good morning,
Grandfather doesn't
Grandpa.
yawn. He doesn't yawn where the small folk can see it.
We caught him.
Yeah, he's sitting there. You can tell he's got some breakfast in front of him. He looks, as has often been the case of late, that he kind of picked at it some. You don't remember the last time he finished a meal the way younger folk do. But it looks like he's eaten over it, and he's talking over his shoulder to your maester a bit. And then he kind of, straightens up as you arrive. Goes, granddaughter, good morning.
This is a welcome surprise. We don't get such visitors on a regular basis here, do we?
We do not. It is in fact a surprise welcome, I'm afraid. Though luckily it is Prince Oberyn and not his brother. He will likely stand on ceremony a bit less than the Prince of Dorne, being of course only a Prince of Dorne. But yes, I believe we've made Wyvern's Rest as ready as we can, granddaughter. I believe all will be well.
Do you suppose that he's here on account of our performance in King's Landing?
He has arrived stranger places for lesser reasons, I am sure. It would seem half the world has tales of the Red Viper arriving unexpectedly. Though it is unlike him for for a visit to be only for such pleasantries. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, I can't wait to see him. It's been a while.
Indeed, it has. It has. Out of character, the twins have probably been to Sunspear about 5 years ago. Was like the last time you guys visited the capital and played in the springs and saw your cousins, a few of the sand snakes, and of course, Prince Doran's children themselves, and all that. So it's probably been maybe 5 years or so. You probably barely remember ever seeing him, Adam, because you would have been 5 or 6 during a big visit with lots of people to meet in Sunspear. So, like, you might have even been confused at the stories that you heard about him elsewhere. Like, no, that guy just gave me some candy and a knife. He wasn't that bad. Like, what are you talking about, Red Viper? Like, nah, I remember him. It was no big deal, So it's been a while for most of you lot.
I mean, Adam's probably like read up on his exploits since then, so like I don't think he's gonna like have. I don't think that's not going to be his only impression of him. I don't think it's just he hasn't seen for himself how impressive he is.
And even the exploits that you've been able to read up on don't match necessarily the gossip about him in the north, where they talk about like maybe he's a fucking skin changer. I heard he keeps a half dozen catamites everywhere he goes, and and none of those sand snakes are actually his. Everyone knows he likes men. Somebody else birthed them on his horse, and all this disapproving northern stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be the kind of thing where, like, no matter what they said, Adam would, like, fiercely deny it, basically. Even if he doesn't even know, he'd just be like, fuck you, that's not true.
Yeah, because it's also insulting you about 3 different ways, even if they only knew 2 of them.
Exactly.
Right? So, and then for Luke, it's probably also been about 10 years, but you were then, getting ready to leave, and you saw him last, probably, let's say the visit that you guys all took to Sunspear, the last time you all saw him, was when Luke was being left behind to Paige and Squire in Sunspear. So Luke, like, you've seen him more since then, not in King's Landing, but certainly when you were serving the rest of House Santagar and traveling routinely to Sunspear. He wasn't always there, because Prince Oberyn goes where Prince Oberyn wants to go, but you've seen him certainly more than the rest. But then once you went off to King's Landing, you haven't seen him since then. So
suddenly, a whole lot about Luke is making sense.
Click.
There's a reason that your backstory was what your backstory was. Even if you forgot it, you've been role-playing it well. So yeah, everyone's kind of got their own impressions of him, and their own interests, and I think that's really cool about this party, in that everyone's had a different experience about the words Oberyn Martell, and that each of them kind of tell a story about each of the PCs. That's how it should be. Who else is showing up for breakfast? Anybody doing anything in particular?
Luke is glaring at Adam as he eats his food.
A little uncalled
I think the look I just had there is kind of reflective of what Adam's gonna be like. What the fuck? What, bro? What's wrong?
While stuffing his mouth and drinking the wine to get rid of his hangover.
Yeah, I mean, Adam will have come down, but
where's Oris at?
I don't know. Last I saw him, he went off to see to the horses.
I was going to talk to him last night.
I mean, I don't
Did you see Sir Will when he came back?
Yes, I did. I think everyone did.
Yeah.
Well,
We're gonna pay for that shit right here.
Well, I mean, I don't think it takes a great intellect to work out what happened.
No, I'm not confused about what happened.
Oh, all right. So what are you confused by?
I'm not confused about anything, other than I didn't get a chance to talk to Oris about it afterwards.
Well, um, I mean, I'm sure we'll get the chance to talk to him, but
Yeah, Luke's attitude about Will has changed 180 fucking degrees since last session. As of last session.
I mean, is everything all right? You seem less than you seem. Is something wrong?
Are you leading to Adam? I don't think it's going to be an issue. I was going to tell him that's the last time he ever lays a hand on Sir Will.
I mean, I don't think he was ever planning to do that, and I think he's kind of. To be honest, I think that's like a free one we can let him off with because it's fair enough.
And I don't disagree. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
I mean,
but I didn't get a chance to say it to him, and the time's probably passed.
I mean, I'm just conscious that there's that if you word it with that kind of intensity behind it, it might be perceived as aggressive and make him kind of standoffish. We don't want things to.
That was the end. I do agree with you.
Would
but
you
the
like?
intention was to sound that way, yes.
I see.
Could you imagine grandfather being meek in his own hall? We have to a degree.
I don't think any of that. I don't think any of that made grandfather look weak. But
No. That's not what I don't mean to say there was an insult on grandfather that we must. I just mean to say if he were to handle a situation like that in his hall, he would also have to sound aggressive. Listen, I like Oris. I'm sure his temper just got the best of him, and it may have been even deserved after what he went through. But I just wanted to make it clear what that man's done before. Well, wanted to make it clear. That's all.
Right. All right. Well, I will try to be nearby to assuage any friction.
I think the moment's gone. That's what was bothering me is all. So
All right.
I thought you may know where he went off to, and I had no anger towards you, brother. I thought I had very little toward. I just wanted to make sure there was a limit.
No, that's all right, and I'm sure if you just explain to him how you felt about that, hopefully he'll understand. But yes, I don't know where he is. He doesn't usually tell me where he's going, and we don't have a bell on him.
Have you guys had a chance to talk about things?
Sorry?
About putting a bell on?
I'm not sure if he's into that. Have you guys had a chance to talk about things?
He is the Aurochs, so like, I mean, it's not unprecedented, like a big cattle bell.
We didn't get a chance to talk or anything, but I'm trying not to think about it. I'm sure things will resolve somewhere or another. He didn't seem as angry last night. So I don't know. Maybe he's calmed down a bit. I don't know.
Okay. I just give a nod and go back to what I was doing, which was mostly trying to get some food in.
Brenda doesn't eat anything. She puts a few things on a little plate and then sets it aside somewhere and goes to where she's supposed to be.
Okay. To be
I still love
clear,
plate.
the only reason this isn't turning into an intrigue between you and Bessa is that you did take a plate of food and go somewhere with it. So she's not gonna leap down at you from the rafters and throw food at you. So you're off the hook because you took some food.
She has bonus dice in food-related intrigues.
Yeah, like all of her, to be clear, all her destiny points went into motherly stealth checks, perception rolls, and intrigues, where she gets like intimidate +4 anybody not currently holding food. Like it's a whole thing. But so you're able to get some breakfast. What you do with it is up to you. But you did get some as soon as you arrived. And yeah, grandfather seems to be kind of convening with the lot of you here in the wee hours before dawn, just up there at the table where you kind of last saw him before the house descended into stately Nymaryen chaos. So this looks like where you're supposed to be.
Well, I feel a wee bit nervous, and don't wish to look nervous, so I don't pace or fidget, but I do go and sit down near him in my spot and set down a glass of, like, watered wine or whatever we have for breakfast.
Either of the sisters reacting to the boy talk at the table?
Yeah. No, I notice it, but I sort of, for as much as I've been around them, I haven't really been around them that much. And so I don't know if it's just them giving each other shit or how serious it is. So it's kind of just like, well, let's see how it goes, and if something has to be done,
Like,
I'll
are they
look at
establishing a pattern here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right then.
The general thrust was like a kind of Adam kind of tactfully saying, yes, look, you do that, I'm sure it'll be fine, but like the subtext of it is, I'm sure it will not be fine, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and make sure that you don't kill each other.
I'm quite sure this will not be fine.
Yes. It will not be fine, and I'll have to pick up the pieces.
All right. Well, the house riders of House Nymaryen here at Wyvern's Rest, this unit of 20 cavalry that you've got, they were broken down into fours in a standard kind of fairly routine patrolling type of thing. And they've been under Father's orders, assisted in relaying the orders with Oris and a few other, like, not quite household knights, to be on the lookout and riding, and Damon Sand is riding out with some of them to go over the route, and they're trying to, like, get to where Prince Oberyn is and escort him back, that type of thing. So you've got kind of outriders riding around and keeping an eye out, and you've occasionally gotten horn blows of those riders returning, and get one of those horn blows of those riders returning, and one of your household knights, a sworn sword, comes striding in, looking pretty quick, and like his relatively light because it's Dornish armor, and but his mail clatters a little bit. He's hurrying a bit more than he normally would, and he's like, and he's rushing up through the room. He goes, Lord Makar, I apologize. We did not have time to the preparations. And then, sauntering in behind him, as like servants are in a rush of activity and stuff, comes a lean figure dressed all in orange and gold. He's wearing something not terribly unlike the gambesons that you've seen in King's Landing, but a lighter quilted material, studded here and there with golden kind of starburst symbols of House Nymaryen Martell. and he saunters in as though being pulled in the wake of this hustling, hurrying knight who's half panicked and trying to relay word. And he goes, "What's all the rush? Is someone arriving soon, uncle?" And there is Prince Oberyn Martell, looking as though he didn't have to run to keep up with this guy, but you get the feeling he like dashed through the halls to keep up with them, then fucking hit the brakes right outside the door to just come walking in like he's a little late for breakfast. So here, even earlier than he should be, not looking dusty from the road, and somehow already carrying a roll idly in his offhand. It just comes sauntering in. It, you know,
Fucking
what's-
golds.
your grandfather gives a little shake, like exasperated shake of his head at this fully grown man in his early mid-40s, as though this has happened all his life, and it probably has. And grandfather lifts himself to his feet, a little easier than you saw at random times last night, like just being around the family again. Put a little spring in his step, and he hauls himself up to his feet and waves a Prince of Dorne forward very casually. And Oberyn then hurries up, casually tosses the half-eaten roll onto one of the empty tables. "Uncle, it has been too long. Flip, flip." And just as nimbly as you've seen people mount a horse, he like parkours over the table without disturbing anything. Just kind of rests his feet, and like the tails of his outfit kind of go flying in a perfect circle, and he's around the table and embracing your grandfather. And you're like, not even sure how he did that. Like, that was impressive. And Bela and Luke are like, yeah, that's an agility roll tied to the hugging specialty. Right? Like, like, it is clear to everyone that there is balance and footwork and grace. And this guy's lean. He's not over large, but he's clearly still in fantastic shape, despite just a few little silver streaks in his curly black hair. And he hauls your grandfather into a warm embrace. From back here, behind the table, on the family side, you can see it looks like you actually lifted your grandfather a few inches off the ground. Like, in a very undignified little kicky way, as though the tables have turned here in recent decades. And then, just as quickly, he flows away from his uncle, your grandfather, and Reyna, you find that your hand is missing, and someone is kissing it. And you're just like, what the? He was over there a second ago. And he just flits from grandfather to granddaughter, and you feel the lightest brush of his wispy little, neatly trimmed mustache, and he goes, "Ah, granddaughter, I have not heard, sorry, nieces, I mistook you for the son. I cannot tell the two of you apart. The beauty is too dazzling. Which of you is the older and which the younger? I cannot tell. All the beauties I have seen in Westeros and Essos alike. And here I should have simply stayed in Wyvern's Rest."
Aw.
Wow.
Wow.
Speechless.
Right? Beam at him, because I can't not
Yeah.
beam at him.
So I'm gonna get up and like the few times when I was younger and met him, kind of get into that sparring stance that him and I would do for greetings, and and if he returns it, do like a few mock hits, and then call in for like a big hug with him.
Yeah, you do a few quick jabs, and he like spins and ducks, and as you go in for the hug, you notice that he had grandfather's sharp breakfast knife in his hand, like somehow it is flit over the table. So he gives you the hug, and you feel the tap tap on your back. Actually, it'd be low, as though and like it's the handle end, and you feel this tap tap as he's withdrawing from the hug, and he's like, "Oh, that could have been your liver. Check the hands first, niece. But give me another one of those." And he pulls you in for another hug, and yeah, just as casually tosses the knife back onto the table, like it's totally normal to threaten to stab people you haven't seen in years. And then he turns to the boys. And he goes, look at you, grown men, defenders of Dorne. Have they put a spear in your hand yet?"
A couple times, I stand up and extend one hand, the other one back on my sword. I don't have my sword on me though, just so he knows I'm ready for his.
You just get like one of those warrior arm grips where you like grab each other by the wrist. He goes, Sir Aaron told me you earned your spurs. I'm sorry I could not make it. Pirates. And then he pulls you in for a hug with like this sudden tug. Nobody's really sure if he was off the coast fighting pirates or like he was off hanging out with pirates. Like
I give a little shrug. Pirates.
Like that's the only explanation he gives. Just pirates. Like, was his ship attacked on the way to King's Landing? You know, that's all you get.
Is that adventure is you missed quite a bit in King's Landing in the last few weeks.
I have heard. King's Landing. I'm sorry about the smell, but I understand some claim the city has other charms.
Yeah.
And he
It's
gives,
nothing like
gives you
Dorne.
this. He holds you at arm's length and gives you this kind of up and down appraising look, and he goes, "Though it looks like King's Landing is missing one of its charmers, eh?"
Yeah, you know, it's true, but sometimes you gotta come home.
And that leaves the littlest one, Adam the Archer, or so I've heard.
Yes, correct. Cool. It's good to see you again. It's been a very long time.
He offers you the same handshake that he offered Luke, that just kind of manly handshake thing.
I will return that.
He also pulls you into a hug.
Let that happen.
He is less violent about it by just a shade, kind of minding the footwork a little. And as he's in close, he goes, "I am sorry, I heard about your leg. My maesters are back at Sunspear, but perhaps I could take a look later."
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I'm getting by.
Look at this. And then he gets all loud again as he gives you the same sort of arm length appraisal. He goes, "Yes, shoulders. An archer indeed. Fine work. I'm glad the North did not ruin you."
No, despite its best efforts.
Well,
Yeah, Adam's just kind of like, you're nice.
You're nice.
you smell good.
Adam's got no chill. That's all it is. Yeah. But genuine warmth
So,
and being proper.
yeah, and with all the family like there, you know, all four of you and grandfather still on his feet, he gestures towards the door. Prince Oberyn does. He goes, "But come, you may have forgotten them. It's been some time." And as if on cue, which is not entirely impossible, given his reputation for the theatrics, a pair of women come stalking in with the squire, Damon Sand, in their wake. One of them is a large, kind of big-boned, tall, broadly built woman, not terribly different than a Maya Stone build, that kind of tall, strong, athletic, not quite as big as Maya Stone, but still pretty unusually large for a Dornish woman. And you recognize the eldest of the Sand Snakes, Obara Sand. She's in her late 20s. She's got lighter hair than Prince Oberyn. It's the brown hair that the gossip mongers say is from her whore mother. But she's wearing, similar to him, these kind of brown and tan and gold colors. Hers are a bit more subdued. Hers are riding leathers, clearly not as much a noble outfit, but she still has a very fine sand silk cloak that has gold trim on it. And rather like Bela, she comes walking in with a spear in her hand. Like she just carries it kind of everywhere is the vibe you get. And she also has a whip hanging at her belt, and you hear spurs jingling as she walks, and catch just a glint of gold and silver at her heels. And next to her is a smaller kind of version of her. This girl looks to be in her mid to maybe late teens. You'd peg him about Adam's age, you'd say. But she has black hair plaited into a single practical braid, and she's also wearing riding leathers. And she is also carrying a spear, but you can tell from the taper and the build of it, it's a spear much more clearly designed for fighting from horseback. And this must be the eldest sand snake born to your uncle's current paramour, Ilaria. This would be Elia Sand, who's kind of smack in the middle of his daughters, and her nickname is Lady Lance. And you can actually see just a bit as Obara Sand is crossing with these like long-legged mannish strides. You can see Elia giving her just a bit of a sideways glance and like trying to match her pace and posture and like the way she's holding her spear. There's some clear like big sister worship going on that anybody in a family can kind of recognize.
Competition.
So you see again, it's Obara Sand and Elia Sand. And he goes, come, my daughters. I know you met my squire last night, but it has been years since, uncle, since your granddaughters and my daughters saw one another. Obara and the Lady Lance, Elia Sand. And they both give a polite kind of nod bow thing. It is not ladylike curtsies from either of them. Neither of them are dressed particularly like women. They're both in like leather armor and, you know, riding clothes with some nice touches here and there. But they're not, you know, dressed like Dornish ladies. And he turns and gestures to them and he goes, for a mission with such haste, I thought to bring only the best riders I had at my disposal. And you see Obara Sand doesn't react, the elder, but there's an undeniable little flash of color on younger Elia's cheeks as he, like, acknowledges that publicly to others, etc., etc. And he just gestures, and yeah.
Yeah, Adam will bow deeply to them and just greet them with my ladies.
Obara, the large one, just kind of after the niceties are over, which she seems to consider after that brusque nod, she like strides over to a nearby table and like you hear the butt of her spear clank against the stone as she leans it against the table and she just starts eating some breakfast that's lying around.
Fair enough.
She looks a little surly, like maybe she was grouchy about having to ride through the night. And now she's like, anyway, we're here now, so whatever. Elia, the younger one, gives you a second kind of nod. She goes, cousin, it has been ages.
It has.
We are both wearing quite a bit more than the last time I saw you. Where are the pools in Wyvern's Rest?
bright pink.
Because I seem to recall I still owe you a dunking.
There's a pool. Just
I had hoped.
I can show you where it is.
I had hoped you had forgotten that.
She gives her father like a little flick of the eyes, and she goes and draws herself up in Martell blood posture. She goes, "The Lannisters aren't the only ones that repay their debts, cousin. I remember. Apparently it happened sometime 10, 12 years ago. Roughhausen, she must have been the one that you could beat, right? Like, she certainly seems to have remembered it."
Well, okay.
Better watch yourself.
I mean, Adam's not going to tell her where the pools are, so. But,
I was-
anyway, Raina can dob him in if she wants to.
Like Raina, Bela, and Luke have started up a bucket brigade to like start a new pool here in the hall. Like they
Anywhere
ran
you
off
want,
and they're-
you know.
Come up with the pool. No problem.
Luke and I greet both politely. Welcome, cousins. Greet them as warriors.
You get a nod around a mouthful of food from Obara, and she swallows it down. I don't want to say like grossly, but like you can see like half a roll go down in like one gulp, and she's like,
Like a
"Sir
seagull.
Luke." Like she went through the trouble of eating her food before she spoke, but like
I
not,
slide Obara Raina's uneaten plate of food.
She gives it a look and gestures with her roll first, like she's gonna finish this cheddar jalapeno roll. She's never had these before; they're amazing. So she's gonna still eat that, but she gives you a kind of grateful nod.
To the other one, I will nod. Oh, by the way, I can show you the pools. You definitely have to pay him back for that.
Accounts must be kept in balance.
Accounts must be kept.
Weren't we just friends 10 minutes ago?
Yes, and we still are.
I choose to ignore Adam.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. I choose to ignore Adam.
Okay.
Right.
His indignant squawking is background noise to this family now. So both of them are looking kind of curiously at Raina and Bela, who are situated in age kind of in between them. They're just kind of eyeing you up, not impolitely or anything, but they've clearly seemed to have heard things about the ladies of Wyvern's Rest that they get to see so rarely.
So how does I just want Sorella fit in here?
Sorella Sand
Yeah.
is a sand snake, I believe, that is a year or two older than Elia. Give me 1 second to double check, because there's fucking 7 of them and I forget the order. But that's
They're
what
all half sisters, right? Every one of them.
Not quite. The first several. God damn it! I pulled up the Game of Thrones wiki, not the wiki of Ice and Fire. 1 second. Because the Game of Thrones wiki only gives you shit from the show. And Dorne got raw dogged in the show. It's garbage. So the official list of all 7 of your cousins is Obara Sand, the eldest, and she is from a whore in Old Town. Nymaryen Sand, who was the most ladylike, arguably, of them, along with the next one down, Tyene Sand. But Nymaryen, known as Lady Nim, is the daughter of a Volantine noblewoman. Tyene Sand is a very kind of delicate, pale, blonde, baby bird, innocent-looking one. Remember, like, the blush of innocence or something that, like, everybody used to take in World of Darkness games? because it gave you target number modifiers on like not being threatening. She's got that like innocent blush to her. Her mother is a septa that Prince Oberyn seduced and had her
Whoa.
with. But she has this same kind of ladylike delicacy to her. And then, yes, the next one is Sorella Sand, who is his daughter from a merchant and trader, perhaps rumored to be some sort of pirate from the Summer Isles. So those four, the big-boned warrior Obara, who turned away from her whore mother to be like her father, Nymeria, aka Lady Nym, who is kind of the most Dornish noblewoman of them, with the Volantine kind of Essosi blood. Tyene Sand, who is delicate and blonde and pretty and affects this air of kind of Sansa-ish ladylike innocence. And Sorella from the Summer Islanders. So she's, by art there, it's half African American, half not, right? Those four are all different, and all they have in common is their father, the Red Viper. But then the next four, so yeah, he has 8. Sorry, not 7. One of them's like a toddler. I always forget her. So anyways, the rest of them are all his daughter from his current paramour, Ilaria, who he has now been with for like 17 years. And the eldest of them is Elia, Lady Lance, who has come to visit you. And then the youngers, if you guys just want to finish your collections, are Obella Sand, Doria Sand, and Loreza Sand. And all of them are full, sister on both sides to Elia. All 4 of them are from Ilaria Sand.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
All right.
Just don't give me a quiz.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, and honestly, the elder ones are the only ones you guys would likely remember. The next youngest one after Elia is like 12 or 13. So the last time the boys would have seen her, she was a 3-year-old kid toddling around. The last time the sisters would have seen her, she was still like 6 or 7. So you remember a kid following you around and wanting to play, and you know what I mean? But like she wasn't necessarily quite a person to you yet as callow, 10-year-olds. But yeah, so it's mostly the older ones that you lot have kind of socialized with.
So Ilaria and Oberyn have been together a long ass time.
Yeah,
was
like,
he ever-
like at least 16 years.
Yeah. Was he ever like married in the eyes of the church?
Nope. He still refers to her as his paramour, which is just like you would call your extramarital type of, so
Right.
they seem quite content to keep things famously open.
So, but he has no sons.
None
Interesting,
that
isn't it?
anyone has noticed.
8 daughters in a row.
I mean, gods have something planned.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, then greet the sisters. It is wonderful to see all of you again, and you're of course, as always, welcome here in Wyvern's Rest. We only apologize that we had such short notice that we couldn't put together a proper welcoming feast for you.
Ah, family and wine is all the welcome I need, he says, lowering himself into a chair that he sprawls in as though it was his.
Well, it's his now. As long as it's not mine.
Yeah, it was just a chair up there at the head of the table.
That other chair has my name on it, okay?
I can imagine it literally having your name on it, like
Right?
carved.
Like a script on the back, and it's got a, like,
Yeah.
a purple cushion.
Yep. Sit on this at your peril.
My chair. All right then. We'll see. Because he's the higher station, even though he's in our house. So
Grandfather seems content to just, and he lowers himself back into his seat, and you notice him actually eating a little bit now. That like it's like, well, they're already here. Crisis has passed. Whatever. It was Oberyn. I shouldn't have been worried in the first place. But a few other of your, high-ranked members of the household and your bannermen who were still here come trickling in about the next minute or so, because it seems like it took them just that 2 or 3 minutes to recognize the hubbub in the courtyard. That, hey, wait, that group of riders came back with extra riders. Oh shit, that means they're here. Shit, like I wasn't, like damn it, I was gonna be there in 5 minutes anyway. Fuck, right? So they all kind of come in together in a knot, and you get the feeling that like they did the West Wing thing where they ran into each other in the hall, and the group got bigger as they went. You know what I mean? Like they were all just like rushing and comparing notes. But striding in comes Sir Adam Bridington, your aunt Elia of the Landed Knight of Sandstorm, and then Alysain Mormont clambering in their wake, looking distinctly uncomfortable, not wearing furs for the first time. She insisted on wearing her traveling cloak for the travel, and you feel like she got told you keep on your bare-lined cloak when you're in someone's house, young lady, right? So like she wore it at the feast last night too, but she's not wearing it now as a finally submitting to the Dornish climb, but she's still wearing like her clothes otherwise, and little Robert Frey is about 10 feet behind them all, and as they round the corner and scramble into this room, you see him hopping in through the door on one foot as he's tugging his other boot on.
Oh.
As rushing in, and he's like, wait, I'm supposed to announce you, I think. And then he just kind of gives up, and he kind of fades into the near background, eyeing Damon Sand, who is still a squire despite being twice Little Robert's age. You don't think Little Robert's going to challenge Damon to a push-up contest or riding Quintain, despite them both being squires. So you can see him giving him a look like, like that's not fair. Like, shit. Like so. He just kind of goes over and stands near Damon, like, I guess this is where we're supposed to be. But the adults come walking up through the hall towards you, led by Elia Sandstorm, who pulls both of the sand snakes into a warm embrace. She does live on the coast. She is on the coastal part of your lands, and sometimes she gets visitors that you don't. But it seems like she and the sand snakes are kind of fast friends, which makes perfect sense. So she starts chattering with those two, as though she just hasn't seen them in a few weeks. Just like normal stuff, like, oh, you look good on the road. Are those new boots? And, oh, yeah, look at that armor. Oh, good, I like those style of rivets. And, like, they're just talking like their brand of Spec Ops girl talk. And Sir Adam comes striding up to the table in his kind of stiff and formal Vale Knight way, giving a bow to a Prince of Dorne, and grandfather reintroduces him. Of course, nephew, you remember Sir Adam Bridington. He looks after a large plot of land for us and trains our horsemen. And Prince Oberyn makes a big show of giving him a very polite back. Goes, yes, I hear you are largely to blame for the upsets in King's Landing, having trained my nieces and nephews so well. And and they kind of hit it off. So there's a few minutes of just kind of general pleasantries that you lot can mix with if you want to.
I am super pleasant, even though I dropped that really pointed hint in the beginning about why the fuck are you here.
Yeah, he chose to ignore it.
I know,
He's the-
but since he has, we're just gonna play it the way that he does, just as casual, just as chill.
Yeah, I suspect that he won't tell us why he's here until we can talk in private, and so we need to make the show of like getting breakfast over with and all that. I think probably.
Yeah,
Then he might tell us.
so we will chill out.
Anybody else got any particular, like, joining in a conversation plans? Or are we just going to do a general milling around being pleasant with everyone?
Yes, I would like to talk to people. And first up, I want to go and chat with Aunt Elia and the Sand Snakes and get in on, like, the armor talk and that sort of stuff.
And you remember that your Aunt Elia does have the same name as Lady Lance. Though, of course, Elia Sand, his daughter, was named after his sister, but it's not a terribly uncommon Dornish name. There have been rumors swirling that the only reason your Aunt Elia has not bred a sand snake of her own is because her name is Elia. Prince Oberyn has always been a perfect standoffish gentleman with her, and she has never pressed it, despite her own string of paramours, and her being quite open to a great many other gentlemen. The two of them have just kind of always stayed at arm's distance, and the rumor is because of her name. So they've always been kind of a weird little special relationship between her and the Sand Snakes, and him and you. It's, families are complicated, especially where sex is concerned. It's a Westeros game, so
Just
that's
ask Jamie and Cersei Lannister.
yeah, it's a perfectly normal sentence in A Song of Ice and Fire. But yeah, like, they immediately pull Bela into the conversation. Obara was probably something of a role model to you
Yeah.
growing up, Bela. Either that, or you were like resentfully glaring at her because she was always older enough to get to do stuff that you maybe weren't yet. So it could be like yeah, now I'm an adult. But in my head, I was picturing it more of you're like, yeah, like that one. Like, no, granddad, I want to grow up to be like that one.
Yeah.
Rhaena's going to grow up like those two. I'm going to grow up like that one, But yeah, they pull you into the conversation seamlessly. And as you're there chatting, young Elia hums the tune of Sir Meryn Cant.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm happy that tune has traveled all the way to you.
Well, we need to hear the tale from the woman that caused it, don't we?
Oh, I'd gladly tell that again. And 1,000 more times.
So true.
And then Bela starts the story.
Yeah.
So there I was, fighting 5 of the King's Guard. So yeah, they listen. Young Elia listens with like rapt attention, and she's like, no, tell me more about your horse. Okay, now tell me more about your saddle. Okay, now how were your feet planted in? Like, she is looking for like technical advice, and you have heard that she is already a very proficient writer, and like Lady Lance has stuck, not in a sarcastic or condescending way, but it looks like she's still definitely trying to like learn. And you notice this close that she smells of horse, like in a way that the others that rode through the night didn't. So you suspect she just spends a lot of time in the saddle and the stables, and it seems to just kind of be in that phase.
Okay.
But she's definitely asking for different details than certainly Aunt Elia is like, whatever, horses and stuff. Like, that's not her shtick. she's okay at riding it, but yeah. So young Elia is definitely, like she's trying to like get you
Yeah.
on the. She wants like the Tom Clancy version of the story,
Yeah.
right? Where you go like, listen, I had exactly this weapon, and like she's getting that level of detail.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to provide those details, including the, you know, all these men are just like huge and have super heavy armor on. So the only thing I could do is really get up high in that saddle to really dig in and unseat them from their horse. And I'll tell you, it worked more times than I thought it would. You just have to be a little bit more prepared that you also will probably fall off. But the name of the game is getting them off their horse too. So I figured that was the only way I could get them up and off.
She gives a very like 15-year-old girl pout in an almost like disarmingly regular, girlish, kind of innocent, real-world way. She goes, "Father hasn't let me fight any Northerners yet."
You'll get that chance soon. They won't be ready for you, believe me.
She goes, "And Dornish men are so scrawny." And then you hear a rhythmic wooden tapping, and her eyes kind of slide sideways, and so does Obara Sand. As anyone approaches, she looks over. You see, still, I don't want to say struggling on his crutches, but getting accustomed to one leg, comes Wooly Will. He's down to one crutch, and his good leg. He's down to the one set, but there's still that kind of off rhythm tap as he's walking, and Oris is walking in behind him, tugging at like the waistband of his good outfit, like he's still like adjusting it, still looks a little uncomfortable in it, and then you see Elia give a very girlish perk up. She goes, "Or maybe they're not." Her last line was, "Dornish men are so scrawny." And then in come Wooly Will and Horace, and she's like, "Never mind, you guys growing big here." So that was her kind of joke. After they arrive up at the table, Reyna and Adam, I'm assuming you're kind of staying closer to grandfather.
Yeah, and like Adam's been mostly just quietly observing because like while Oberyn's been very disarming and Adam's not like quite as anxious now because like it doesn't seem like it's not like, oh, the enemy is coming, kind of, it's things are not like battle stations or anything. He's still quite wary that something's up, so is going to be very carefully observing, to kind of try and find some sign of what he's here for, but just being kind of quiet and pleasant.
So shortly after the kind of rhythmic limping of Wooly Will and all his burly, slope-shouldered mass coming in on one leg, just after that, you guys see grandfather give just a small gesture, and then almost imperceptibly, over the next 30 seconds or so, you notice that all the servants are gone. There's a fresh tray of wine on the table. They didn't scurry out, like nobody scattered, but like you definitely, everyone then notices when like the doors close, and you look around, and there's no one here, but Lord Maekar and his bannermen, his family, Prince Oberyn and his family, and a couple of squires, and the pseudo household knights of Sir Oris the Aurochs and Wooly Will of the Bells. And Prince Oberyn makes a big show of reaching for a new thing of wine. He goes, and then he leans back in his chair in a not quite Lynn Corbreyish fashion, and he goes, "Well then, let's get this war council started."
War council?
Ooh,
We
war.
would like to hear more.
Yeah,
And-
anxiety just whoosh.
And as he's sprawling languidly in the chair, drinking with one hand, he reaches down to like one of those tails of his outfit, um, and he kind of pulls it up and is idly toying with it. And you notice he sticks his finger right through a hole in the tail of it and gives it a kind of careless little wiggle. And then you notice that there's a few scuff marks on the armor of his squire and his daughters. Nobody looks
Yes.
hurt. Oh, there we go. We got a sound from you there, Robert.
Okay, yeah, sorry for that. I did want to add a thing real quick before we change scenes, and my mic was fucking up, so.
Sure. Yeah, by the way, chat, we didn't know Robert was trying to talk, and it turns out Robert was trying to get his mic working, so we're maybe going to backtrack a second. So go ahead, Robert. What's
Yeah, sorry. So, just as Bela's kind of finishes her story, I want to kind of talk with Elia a little bit more. Elia Sand, not Uncle Elia, Aunt Elia. And just kind of go into the strategy that we use with the various saddle positions, especially during the choice to use the turning lances in the Battle of Seven.
Yeah, and she gives a little nod to that. If there's anyone in Westeros that is going to openly admire the perhaps faintly dishonorable cunning of bringing a tourney lance to a lance fight, it's gonna be the fucking sand snakes. They're like, oh yeah, and they were poisoned, right? No, like they're all gonna be like, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to us. You
In
know,
this
like,
case, we couldn't poison them because we were accused of poison.
yeah, but like they're all definitely gonna be like, oh yes, of course. And even Aunt Elia is like, you hit the opponent before they can hit you. You did so clumsily with a stick instead of a bow, but I can't hold it against you. Those Andal traditions are backwards. So yeah, like you're
Yeah.
definitely talking to the right group of people to appreciate that sort of trick. Not quite cheating, but definitely trickery.
Well, unfortunately, they don't let you bring a bow to a duel.
It's been a lot easier they did.
For me, anyway.
Yes, I just wanted to be part of that, and I guess our microphone wasn't working, so.
Yeah, like I didn't see you trying to talk, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool, it's cool.
So, fast forward back to noticing a few scuff marks on armor, and Prince Oberyn just kind of carelessly fingering a hole in his clothes, like, oh, that's normal. He goes, yes, these bandits, they've been causing a bit of a stir. Trade is being disrupted, both through Prince's Pass and to a lesser extent here in the Stoneway. The unfortunate mishap of your cousin, the Will of Will, but more than that, his focus on other duties for some time, have left the Stoneway less guarded than they should be. And this squabbling between you and House Ironwood, and House Ironwood and House Martell, we have perhaps not all been as coordinated as we should. This Vulture King, he vexes us. We are vexed. I seem to have misplaced a royal wit, a royal writ, while dodging arrows last night. But, suffice it to say, my brother, Prince Doran, title, Nymaros Martell, title, has decreed, with the blessings of King Robert first of his name, sitting upon his throne somewhere far enough away, this Vulture King is to be disposed of. We will have assistance from the wrong side of the Dornish marches, and we will have assistance from houses along the Prince's Pass as well. House Ironwood will be sent to assist those aiding in this fight from the west. We would not have the unpleasantries, and here he gives Bela a proud look, between House Ironwood and House Nymaryen disrupt our ability to put an end to this embarrassment to Dorne. So, the wardens of the Stoneway the Blood Royal, what is left of them and their knights, has been sent to oversee the western operations. Working out of Prince's Pass and making their way east into the mountains will be the Warden of the Stoneway, Lord Anders, etc., etc. Friends of mine from House Fowler, under Lord Franklin himself, and aided by Sir Thomas, his cousin, and some help from the north, Bryce Caron of Nightsong. Here on the eastern front, sorry, what'd you miss?
I didn't miss anything. I was just like, I myself was asking who, but just keep a note that Raina was briefly confused because that name sounds like nobody we should know.
You have run across Bryce Caron, or Lord Bryce of House Caron. He was actually at the tourney. He is another Marcher Lord, not terribly distant neighbor to like Lord Barrick, is another Dornish March Lord, which normally, like traditionally speaking, you guys fight with them.
Right.
But it would seem that King Robert, King Robert, by which we probably mean John Arryn. So John Arryn and Prince Doran have decided to make this a joint maneuver type of operation. So it's from the west, it's 2 Dornish houses and 1 Stormlander house. And it was, and here from the east, House Nymaryen will oversee things with assistance from House Swan of Stonehelm, some promised assistance from Lord Barrick of Blackhaven, and through his squire, the help of some Danes of Starfall.
Oh.
And here he gives his finger another little wiggle, and then kind of sighs and lets that tail flop and goes, I think I will stay too. I have not tasted of battle in too long, and as I said, we are vexed. Alas, I seem to have misplaced the house troops of House Martell, but my daughters, my squire, and I will be of whatever humble assistance we might offer. So to recap, you guys will be overseeing a joint operation with some amount of assistance from the Danes of Starfall and the Stormlanders of House Dondarrion and House Swan, your nearest neighbors to the north.
And
They were-
recent allies.
Yeah, we're quite pally with them, so that's good.
Right?
Can't hear you, Robert. Robert was trying to speak, but we can't hear him.
All right, he looks like he's gonna wait. Okay. So yeah, any immediate reactions to that? Here we're gonna go Bela
Give me
first,
trouble. So
because Bela is the one that he was kind of glancing to the most when talking about this, not Reyna.
I'm very excited for 2 things. One, because I've trained a lot in strategy and tactics for battles. Getting to team up with other houses should be interesting, but I'm probably a little bit more excited that he's going to stay himself and help out, so I might get a chance to fight alongside him, and that is, I think, what Bela is the most excited about. so I'll say,
Light up.
cousin, I'm happy to have you, and we'll definitely be able to put good use to you as well as the sand snakes as well.
And you see that both of the girls, well, Oberon's not quite a girl. I mean, she's late 20s, but like both of his girls, we'll say it that way, they kind of light up at this confirmation that they get to stay. Especially Lady Lance, who actually does a girlish little hop, like Daddy just said she could go to the concert. She's like, I heard the Vulture King has Stormland deserters in his ranks. Ah, Northerners. And she just looks like, yeah, I get to fucking fight people. So yeah, like she looks excited and happy. Yeah, like they all look pleased as punch to be here. So I wanted to give Bayla first dibs on reaction. Anyone else want to like chime it in?
Yeah, I raise a glass of this, and it will be an honor to serve with you, Uncle.
He gives a bit of a snort at that. Not an Orisian snort, but just kind of like, sure, like I guess that flavor of it.
Well, Oris has a very distinctive, unique snort. So
Yeah.
Sorry.
not that Adam's memorized it or anything.
And I'm gonna look over to Elia, who was earlier complaining that she hasn't got to fight anybody, and give her a nod, like, showtime.
Yeah, and like I said, she just looks like a happy young girl that just got like One Direction tickets. Like she's just like, yes, this is happening. Dope. Yeah, yes. And I'm going to battle with these cool cousins of mine and my badass dad, and I'm gonna show Obara how cool I am, and everything's gonna be great. Like she just looks like totally fucking stoked about all this.
When things calm down, and this will probably be later, so I just wanted to make a note here. I do want to inquire about Lady Dana and see how she's doing.
Okay, that'll come up if it comes up. Any other immediate responses to House Nymaryen being in charge of a joint task force?
Luke looks pleased.
Adam is silent and probably looks anxious.
I look sidelong at grandfather to gauge his response to all of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Perhaps noticing a lull in the eager responses, or perhaps in response to your look, or perhaps because he speaks only at exactly the right time, as he has been Lord of Wyvern's Rest for so long. He is one with the stones. But exactly as if on cue, grandfather Lord Makar gives a bit of a nod and takes a drink, and he goes, yes, it is time that House Nymaryen rode to war once more. It has been 20 years. That is long enough. Let us raise a sea of spears and show Westeros that this dragon still has fangs. Adam, you will squire for your sisters. The rest of you will all be going, of course, as well as adults. This is an all-in confirmation from grandfather. Like, he was a little apprehensive about all of you going to King's Landing.
Shadow drop.
But, yeah, it looks like Adam's back. Adam, did you miss audio during that, or was it just your video?
Yeah, because the app puts me out every so often, so yeah, I did miss that.
Grandfather says, yes, we will raise a sea of spears,
I got
we
that
will show all Westeros, blah, blah, blah. Adam, you will serve as a squire to your sisters. So, out of character, that's grandfather going all in on this with more confidence than he had about all of you going to King's Landing. He's like, yeah, sure, let's go commit war. So he's just like, yeah, you guys are all going. Like, this is...
Both of them?
I shoot Adam a reassuring glance.
I will try to make the proud, grandfather. Big gulp. No pressure.
So yeah,
just squire for two people.
He gives you a confident nod with a hint of a smile at it. That is the look he often gave when he asked you all a seemingly impossible question, like something that everyone said you were all too young to have the answer for. When he would quiz you on part of the histories of the Targaryen invasion of Dorne, or some political alliance, or like whenever he asked you guys something that was supposed to be the equivalent of a grade or two ahead of you, he would have this little hint of a smile where he was like, he was sure that his grandchildren were going to surprise people. And he's kind of got that look on his face here now. But also with this certainty of like fuck it, now's time. Let's do this. House Nymaryen is, the dragon's out of the bag, so like let's fucking go loud on this. And sure, let's go to war. Is you sense that grandfather's just like, all right, it's time. It's time.
Let's do
I've
it.
been waiting for this for a long time. But yeah, he's seems surprisingly okay with this.
Excellent.
As people kind of disperse, when that happens, I'd like to try to get a word with grandfather.
Okay, that's not happening yet. So again, we'll wait. With a
With my sound messing up, I gotta get it whenever I can.
Right?
With a not at all ladylike clearing of her throat. I don't want to call it Big Elia and Little Elia because she'll shoot me, both of them. But Aunt
They will come to
Elia,
life and get you.
Aunt Elia says, "And your bannermen? Will they be forced to stay at home, languishing in their towers like lovesick maidens?" And she's looking directly at grandfather like, "Come on, fucking let us off the leash. Come on. And you can even see that Sir Adam Bridington kind of lifts an eyebrow. It's been a while. He hasn't really gone to war since the rebellion either. And he's listening. And everybody looks to grandfather, and grandfather looks to Bela and Reyna.
Of course. How can House Nymaryen go to war without our bannermen?
Your strength lies in those who follow you.
The arrow is best, but it's loosed.
Aunt Elia lets a white-toothed smile that lights up the room. She's like, "Yeah, I gotta go fucking kill some dudes, yeah!" She looks almost young Elia's age for a moment. Just like, "Yes, actually, good, yeah. Everybody looks pretty happy. With less subtlety than Aunt Elia, who had very little subtlety, Alysanne Mormont is like, "What about me? Gotta stay home?" What?
No, absolutely not. You are also an asset.
I don't know if I could take much more of this food without, getting some blood on my axe and such. Good. And then she gives a look off to the side and goes, "Besides, young Robert there's nigh 13 and he hasn't ever gone to war. Riverlanders. So yeah, this will be good for the lad."
It'll be good for him, yes. And us.
Woolly Will just sits kind of defeated looking in his seat, like you're sure that he would have wanted to be able to say no as a choice instead of being forced to say no because he's a one-legged old man, right? Like you can tell that it just kind of hit him. This is the first time that he would refuse to go shed blood because he has to refuse to go shed blood. So he looks a little sad and doesn't speak up. And you see Oris just kind of shifting from foot to foot. Like he's not sure if he can speak up too. Like Alysanne can speak up, so like she's not even actually a knight. And like I was knighted, so I should probably be able to speak up, but I also don't like speaking up. So he just kind of is fidgeting a little, as though he's not sure what his place will be as you ride off to war.
Sir Oris. would you care to join us for some more?
Would you like
A
to fuck
spot of
more?
war.
I'm not
Well,
back to put it up.
No, I'm good. I'll stay here.
Okay.
Well, I suppose I owe you lot some service for room and board and such. And, well, I'd feel bad if less of you came home than rode out there. So, hi. I'll be your sworn sword for this campaign. And he kind of straightens up a little like, yeah, I'm a fucking knight now. Like, this is a thing. I'm doing a thing. It was up to me, you know.
You're a good boy.
Well, then we need only a timeline, and then we can pull out the maps and let Bela at it.
And Prince Oberyn, after kind of giving everybody a chance to confirm who's in and who isn't, you notice he does not, for an instant, seem inclined to tell this one-legged hedge knight to leave, even when the one-legged hedge knight is not going to go off to war with you. So you wonder how much he knows about Woolly Will of the Bells, but he doesn't send the man away. He goes, well then, we'll look after some maps and all that. Let us have a week to assemble armies. This force approaching from the east might as well muster here. It's as good as anywhere else. That should give you time for your bannerman and bannerwoman to assemble what troops you require. And the you here, he's looking right at like Bela. And then we will see what the Stormlanders bring, and how swiftly the riders from Dane can get here. And then we will see how this campaign will be planned. We have heard all manner of rumors about this Vulture King. And they say he commands 1,000 men or more. They say he attacks in 2 or 3 places at once. They say there are whole caravans that have simply vanished into Prince's Pass and never arrived. Uh-oh. Sorry, is my sound coming through to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Felicia said I was locked up on her end, and now she's moving herky-jerky on my end.
Yes.
A lot of just been our stuff.
From my end, she's the only one that's occasionally a little bit stuttery. Yeah.
So yeah, he, sounding completely unconcerned, just says, you know, they say he commands over 1,000 men, and that his army grows with deserters from both sides of the Dornis marches. They say he attacks in several places at once. They say whole caravans have gone missing in the Prince's Pass. Some say that he maneuvered events in King's Landing to lead to the death of the Will of Will, and that he plans to move directly on the Stoneway soon. Some say he's the deadliest man in Dorne.
Yeah. They don't know Dorn if they say that.
Well, let us test that, shall we?
And he completely casually takes another drink of his wine, and all that. So, we will see. We will ride out in a week. The plan is to coordinate at Kingsgrave. We will speak with Lord Dagos there. Out of character, House Manwoody of Kingsgrave have that name because back in the day, when everybody was a king, they killed a king there. But you guys remember House Manwoody from your Maester history lessons, and that they were another house that had a Targaryen marry into them. Prince Elena Targaryen, daughter of Aegon III, married into the Manwoodies in about the same time that House Nymaryen was formed. They have sought out much more Dornish blood instead of keeping the Targaryen strain going, but you've always kind of remembered them as, yes, of course, you know, like distant they're better than some of these other Dornish houses, at least, you know. So you remember, you know, House Manwoody, and off the top of your head, Kingsgrave is a fairly central location here in kind of the middle of the Red Mountains, this stretch where it would be. So it seems like that'll make sense. And that also seems to be as far as the plan has gone from John Arryn and Prince Doran. So from here, it's looking like it's going to be muster some troops, play it by ear. Nobody's really sure how big the contingent from the west is or how coordinated they're going to be. The general plan seems to be you guys go from one direction from the Stoneway, they broadly go from another direction from Prince's Pass, and you flush out some bandits in the middle. That seems to be just about it. So from here, it's going to be largely up to House Nymaryen. You've got a week to prepare, and then you'll be better able to take stock of your forces. We are not going to set up a super detailed hex map type of thing. We're going to be using a much more narrative style of finding the bandits and that sort of thing. But that's where we're at. So does anybody else have particular... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, babe.
But gamers love maps.
Right? But
So-
I don't think we need another layer of crunch to add to this mechanic and the complexity of and extra steps of playing online. So we're going to keep it a little more narrative. And the other issue is that literally every map of Westeros is contradictory, because for a long time George R.R. Martin purposefully kept the maps vague because he wanted travel times to be travel times that the plot needed. So there's a lot of very different maps of Westeros out there, and we're just gonna kind of fudge a lot of this. So you guys have a week before you are expecting your Stormlander allies, and then presumably like a day to head out after that. So it is time to figure out what's going to happen next. Anybody have any particular questions for this war council as it continues?
I mean, I have a lot of planning questions and things like that. We might look at taking a break at some point. I don't know when you had in mind for that.
My plan would be at the end of this war council, we're taking our break. So if there's role-playing people want to do right now, before we move into the abstract of these are our preparations over the next, like that's kind of what my plan is next, is we're going to wrap up this scene with some clear role-play if people want, and then potentially move into the more abstract of sometime in the next couple days, Luke checks on Iris Dannett. Sometime in the next couple days, Bela decides to ride against Elia at Quintain to test herself. Or, you know, like we're all gonna have a chance to do kind of montage over the next week role play, and also specific prep for the campaign. But first, let's worry about wrapping up this scene.
Okay.
So, any specific conversational stuff?
I
Yeah.
don't have anything. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was Adam would definitely be approaching his sisters to flap at them. I don't. I'm not questioning grandfather's decision making, but I haven't squired in several months, and I was only squiring for one person. So if you, I will not be offended if you want someone else to do it for you, because I've also not done war before. So, you know, if you want someone more experienced at squiring, I won't be offended. But
No, I think maybe. Go ahead.
I put my hand on Adam's shoulder and say, "We'll be okay. Do your best." And the two of us are self-reliant enough that between the three of us, we'll be fine in getting this done.
All right.
Do what you can do, and we can make sure that we're ready as well.
Because
All right.
frankly, we don't need you as just a squire. We need your mind at the table with us.
Well, I'll certainly do my best, and well, I'll be taking the bow as well. So I'll do everything I can to be useful.
I'm sure you will be more than useful. Do we know who's coming from Blackhaven?
I know what's happening here.
Prince Oberyn gives an airy, negligent wave. Probably some storm lord.
Well, that's kind of where they come from.
It
Don't
is.
let them slack, sister. Ride them hard.
It feels a bit queer to. It feels a bit queer to invite them down here, but my brother.
To be fair, Uncle, we befriended many Stormlanders on our trip to King's Landing, and only one of them betrayed us.
It's true.
Only one.
This is true.
But
Nonetheless,
their family's in tatters now, so
but Blackhaven was most gracious to us on our trip home, and
That's true.
I would like to make sure that we keep that in mind in our interactions with them. But that is all.
I defer to my elder sister, Jen. She's usually on top of these things.
Oh.
Anybody else with specific questions?
No questions.
No, not now.
All right. Oh,
Yeah.
check with Bela. Bela breathes real heavy. Is it just a happy sigh, remembering stabbing people, or a happy sigh looking forward to stabbing people, or was it an intake of breath getting ready to ask a question?
yes, it is those things. My heavy breaths are always
Those
about
things.
remembering strategic killings from before, savoring in the delights of knowing they are to come, and knowing that I have a question to ask about such activities, and that would be, do we have any actionable knowledge on the whereabouts of such an army? If they are 1,000 strong, surely they must be somewhere. Do we have no scouts?
We have plenty of scouts, but it would seem so does this Vulture King. No one swims through the oceans of the Red Mountains like a Dornishman, and no one hides like a Stormlander. So larger armies have been lost in there before. I do not doubt we'll be able to find him, but all we know for certain is that he masses his armies somewhere between Prince's Pass and the Stoneway.
Isn't it true that like there's more than one of them? So that would explain the springing up in more than one place if it's not just one person.
Generally, like out of character, generally, historically speaking, the Vulture King is just kind of the self-proclaimed nickname of the biggest bandit leader in Dorne,
Yeah.
right? Or rather, in the Dornish mountains, which kind of extend into the Stormland. You know, so it's not impossible that there could be like two rival Vulture Kings. When that's happened in the past, they've kind of eaten each other instead of becoming a larger problem, though. So the rumors that you guys have all had are that this is a fairly large and organized, group, and it certainly is possible he has trusted lieutenants, and he could be splitting his army to attack more than one place. But
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to reflect like Adam kind of thinking out loud about the stuff that he's read about, like past stuff to do with Vulture King.
it tends to not be a title that is shared. So, um, there certainly is going to be a Vulture King, but he could have all manner of trusted captains and lieutenants that make it look like he's everywhere at once. And this is standard Dornish bullshit, right? That style of warfare is not uncommon down here. Um, so yeah, sounds like you guys will be having to do a lot of scouting through the Red Mountains, and stuff like that. But with that, let's go ahead and cut to our break, and we will chat a bit during that 10 minutes, just a smidge. But viewers, we will be back in about 10 old minutes, and we'll see you on the other side. Everybody, welcome back to Westeros. We missed you while we were gone. We hope you missed us too. But you might recall that we left at the tail end of a genuine, princely endorsed, state sanctioned war council, where it has been decreed that while House Fowler, the wardens of Prince's Pass, aka the Wide Way, are mustering an army kind of on the western side of this threatened region, you guys, House Nymaryen, are going to be mustering an army here on the eastern side of the threatened region, and then both armies are going to sweep through the Red Mountains, and rake through every pass and canyon and valley and rise and cave, and try to pin down and bring to an end the Vulture King, which is the title given to kind of the biggest, nastiest bandit leader in Dorne. They have grown bold of late. Dorne has become embarrassed by this whole affair. The border between the Stormlands and Dorne has been bloody, with both sides not really sure when to blame it on the Vulture King versus fucking ancestral rivalries. Like House Fowler is going to be leading into war troops from House Caron of Nightsong, when they like famously butchered those guys not that long ago, right? So it's creating some queer bedfellows. There should be some tension, but you guys should be okay. Here, East Alliance is the party alliance. You guys have been getting along with people pretty okay. But yeah, that's the current plan. So we left off in the abstract with about a week of kind of role-playing montage and seeing when a conversation or something happens to stick, and we fall into a full scene. But to keep on giving Erica and Reyna the grown-ups of the party, because for the record, Grandfather seems to be completely hands-off on this. He's like, nope, screw it. Like, they're old enough, it's time. Out from the nest you go, baby dragons. So it looks like the assumption is like Reyna's gonna be in charge of the house. Bayla's gonna be in charge of like the army. He seems content to just like leave you all to it. But to give the elder twins a little more time to keep on brainstorming and get ready and figure out what they want to be up to this week, let us jump to later that first day, when Luke goes to pay a visit to the Lady Iris Danit.
Yes, I will dress in appropriate clothing and without any guard anyone with me, and I will go and check up on her, make sure she's okay.
All right. She has been staying in her chamber, not terribly interested in socializing with much of anyone at all. Her tactic for getting ready for a princely visit seems to have been staying out of the way, which isn't, unfair. You all may have been a little jealous of her for just a few moments, but she was like, listen, I am a lady. I could be serving as like a handmaiden to someone or whatever, but no, I'm just gonna stay out of the way here. I'm a guest, not quite a member of the house. So she just kind of kept a low profile last night, and she only emerges kind of mid-morning. So you guys have been up for several hours or longer in some cases. But yeah, she's just mostly been keeping to her quarters. But that she does come down to pick herself up a late breakfast. So let's just say you run into her in the halls somewhere. So if things get super awkward, I can have other NPCs show up to humiliate you. But for now, the two of you have just kind of run into each other on the hallways while you were on your way to go visit her room.
Lady Janet, may I have a word?
It has been made abundantly clear to me in the last few years, Sir Lucaris, that the men around me may have almost whatever they would like. What?
Lady Janet, that is. It takes
Fair
a moment. You've been through a lot. I understand when I ask you something, it's not as a master or as a captor or. I ask you because I'm concerned. You do not have to even respond to me. You are a lady, and befitting your station, you could ignore this entire conversation if you wish. Please don't think you owe me anything. And it's hard to say that and know that men who would lie as quick as anything have told you probably similar things, but it's all I can do is say it and then try to live it and hope you will maybe one day believe me.
Courtesy is a lady's armor, and it is almost the only one I have left, sir. I will be polite. What is it you would like to speak to me?
I merely wish to ask if you are being treated well, and if you need anything other than what you've been provided.
I am fine, thank you. Your kitchen maid has seen to it that food was delivered to me this morning. I simply thought I would take enough of a walk to return the empty tray myself. And you caught me on my way back to my room. I am as well as can be expected, sir.
Then I apologize. I'm sure you intended to do so as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. I do have one other matter I wish to speak with you, if you have a moment.
Yes, sir. What is it?
It seems there is trouble with the Vulture King. You will be going to war with his forces soon. Your own small folk may have been affected by him in the past. While nobody is calling upon Danet lands for any aid at the moment, I just want you to know that what is happening, because it may very well affect you in the future.
I thank you for your courtesy, sir. I'm sure that your Lord Grandfather will speak to me on it if the needs of my land should come up.
I give her a polite bow, and I let her on her way.
All right. She walks off very prim and proper like. Like she didn't try to stab you or nothing, but looks like she's still just having some trouble warming to situations.
It isn't something that changes quickly, so.
All right then. With that said, it is a reminder that you guys are kind of responsible for Danet lands now also, and there is a week, so potentially there might be time to go take stock if you wanted to try and station troops in Danet lands, or if you wanted to try and call up troops from your Danet bannermen now. There may be time to do that in a week. They're about a day's ride south of you, like not even necessarily a full day. It's like if you leave mid-morning, you will get there by dinner, and vice versa. It's possible to get there and back, a small group. But you've got about a week to get ready, so that might be something you want to do, or you might want to just send some troops down there, perhaps with another one of your bannermen or someone to oversee them to make sure the Danet lands stay protected. Things like that. So that's something else to worry about. But let's go to Bela. What is something else that you are worried about this week? Like what's like job one as you're trying to kind of prep and get ready?
Oh goodness, job one. Oof. Um, so I'm looking at our list of troops, our forces, and I'm thinking about what we need to do in order to even get started. And I think that is, well, two things. Simultaneously, we need to get started on some patrols for our lands, just to make sure that they're not planning anything against us immediately. Like, just in case, let's just mobilize our forces, get them moving, and going around the areas, regular patrols, step them up. But really, the thing is, we don't have any information on where the Vulture King or troops or any of his stuff might be. And so I want to send out some of our guerrillas to do a little bit of scouting. That's sort of like the first step. We're going to need information, is what I'm thinking.
Sure. That is an absolutely reasonable good step. And you can certainly send them out early. Like, you don't have to keep everybody here for a week. Like you have to wait for a green light. So yeah, you can certainly send some of your guerrillas out early. I believe you have theoretical access to 2 units of guerrillas.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly, you have immediate access to yours.
Yes.
Those of Aunt Elia, you might also want to take. You might want to leave them behind, but you should probably. It's also time to kind of take stock and just decide which of the troops you're going to be taking versus leaving behind, because they are your bannermen directly. There's no like shame or dishonor in, temporarily at least, shuffling some troops around from banner house to banner house. Like, in a way, if you go like, listen, if we need to take all the archers and not all the cavalry, let's send some cavalry to patrol Aunt Elia's lands, or vice versa, or whatever. So just remember, part of the balancing act is you don't necessarily want to leave all your stuff exposed either. So that's one of the things to kind of talk about and figure out this week, is how many troops to leave behind and where exactly they're going to be left to keep everything safe. So in the meantime, though, you can certainly take your unit of guerrillas and send them to scout ahead. And in the abstract, we can handle that with some rolls later on. What I think would be the coolest way to do that, because it's 100 freaking guerrillas that in theory are 1 unit, but that's just on the battlefield. They probably break into about 5 groups, let's say, would be kind of standard. So you guys are able to keep about 20 of them to be just kind of close scouts and pickets for your army, and that leaves like 4 independent groups of them that we can say are taking off and fucking off and scattering into the mountains. And when the time comes, you will be getting a dribble of information from them, or they might get wiped out and you never hear from some of them again, whatever. But yeah, it's certainly a solid first move. And you send them out like today, or tell them to make ready and leave first thing tomorrow? Like, just how big a head start are we thinking?
I'm going to get them moving today. I also want to talk to Reyna about the Danet lands and what we want to do with them, because we don't have any real knowledge of them, and I'm curious to know if she wants to go perhaps with Sir Luke and maybe anyone else of her choice to go and take a look at the lands and the state of the defenses and any standing forces they might have, and sort of evaluate where they are, what help they might need, and that stuff. Because out of character, I know she's a lot better at the running a house sort of business, and so that's the kind of thing that Balin knows needs to be done. I can't hear you.
She was muted in Discord. There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I kept hitting the button and it just would pick the nearest text box and start filming. But anyway, on paper, House Dannett doesn't have a lot.
Now, keep in mind, you guys haven't taken a full survey to actually earn that whole PDF. You have a vague idea. You know that they have 3 sections of plains. That's about it. You guys haven't been on friendly terms with them for like 20 years. So you know the very broad strokes of they have 3 things of plains that used to be Dannett lands. But yeah, you guys don't know their power holdings and stuff. And Lady Iris hasn't been there for some time. So she doesn't know off the top of her head either. So to take a full stock of the Dannett lands might take, say 2 days. Like most of a day to ride down, most of a day to do things, most of a day to ride back. Like, so call
We
it
can
like
definitely
2
do
full
that if
days.
you wanted to.
I think that's worth it right now. We need to know what we're working with. I will plan to do that. Like, I could go now. I mean, I will ask Lady Iris if she would like to go and see her ancestral lands.
With all due respect, sister, shouldn't you stay here? I could go to the south if required. Or Adam.
I'm sorry.
Shouldn't you stay here? I or Adam could go to the Dannett lands if required.
I'm not. No, I should go. One of myself or grandfather, we need to lay eyes on what we're bringing into the house. And it needs to be one of us, I'm sorry.
Well,
But I would like to offer Lady Iris that she can come with me if she wishes to ride with myself and a few guards. We've got. Oh my gosh, we have so much cavalry.
Would you like to take some cavalry with you?
Yeah, I mean, I figured like 5 guys.
We got a
We don't
lot.
need yeah.
Take 500.
No, we don't
No.
have any. Like half a dozen horsemen, cavalrymen, myself, Lady Iris, and whoever else wants to go. All right then.
When is the plan to leave?
Depends on what time it is we get this. I mean, is it early morning right now?
Say mid-morning. Like, Luke just recently had his conversation with Iris, so like 10 o'clock-ish in modern parlance.
You said it's like a half day ride.
Yeah, you could get there before dusk.
No, let's go in the morning.
All right. Who wants to go ask Lady Iris if she wants to go home?
I will. It's my idea.
All right then. She seems to have sequestered herself in her chambers again.
Well, I will go to her chamber and I will tap, tap, tap upon her door.
It takes her a moment or two, but she comes to the door and looks very prim and proper, and as though she had like straightened herself up. You see that she has a few books in this guest chamber, and one of them is open, like over towards a windowsill. So it looks like she was kind of Disney princessing it up, sitting on her windowsill, reading a book, singing a sad song or something, that type of vibe.
Awesome. Lady Iris, in the morning I am riding to your ancestral lands to take inventory, get a look of what's going on there. Would you like to come with me?
If I return home, can I stay there? Out of character, she is the lady of the Danet lands right now.
If you feel comfortable doing so, with all of what's going on, oh, you don't know. we're we're joining with several other houses to do to lead an offensive against the Vulture King in the mountains.
Oh, yes, Sir Lucaris had mentioned something about that.
And if you would, I think if you ride with me there, you can make your decision on whether you felt safe enough to stay there or wish to return here for the time being.
It has been quite some time since I felt comfortable or safe anywhere. I know that I did not. What the fuck was that?
I apologize.
Okay. I know that I did not in King's Landing, and I do not here, so I may as well try returning to my home, no matter how empty it may now be.
Very well. I'll have a maid assist you with packing what you wish to take.
Tomorrow morning, then.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you see, like, her eyes are kind of lit up, like she seems tentatively hopeful for kind of the first time you have ever seen. She's like, okay, maybe the seven aren't fucking with me this time. Maybe I get to actually go home. Maybe. But she looks kind of guarded about it. But yeah, so she looks.
Well then, good. And I will go back and prepare for going there. I'm not planning to stay more than like a night, so I mean, it just depends on what kind of crap we run into. What about? They have a maester there, correct?
Yes, Maester Ferris. He was like late 20s. You met him briefly in King's Landing. The most notable thing about him was he is surprisingly young for a maester.
All right. Well then, good. I expect that we will need to speak with him to find out what exactly we're looking at there.
All right, anybody else getting invited on this road trip as it is being organized day one?
I don't know. You guys want to go? I mean, anybody who wants to go is welcome to.
I think more than just Reyna should go.
I'd like to go.
Okay.
I can stay here. It's up to you.
No, you can come. I mean,
Wait, are you going to be like telling the rest of us what you're planning on doing?
yeah, sure.
Right.
I will tell you all at tea or something.
In that case, I strongly advise, sister, that if you leave her there, that you also leave someone to keep an eye on her, perhaps a handmaiden or something similar, who can keep us appraised of anything that goes on, just in case.
Let's be honest at this table. You want me to leave a spy with her?
Yes.
Well, maybe the wise choice. It may also harm our efforts to get her to trust us. But leaving her with her lands and free reign is a dangerous.
You know, I mean,
option.
you know how close their lands are to the Ironwoods. If there's a very real possibility that she is masking even more resentment than we already perceive, and may go straight back to them and plan revenge. So we should definitely not just blindly trust her to care about us.
Adam's not wrong. On the other hand, giving her autonomy back may be the only thing we could do to have her,
Well,
to prove to her our intentions.
Well, I mean, I don't think that leaving someone to passively observe things is taking her autonomy away. She can do what she wants, but we would have someone to let us know if something is untoward.
It may behoove us in the entire relationship to let her know what that person's there for, as opposed to it being a secret kind of thing that we try to trick her into.
Well, if she stabs us in the back, I told you so.
Well, if any luck, she'll aim for me and leave you all alone. I agree with Adam. His concerns are legitimate. We just
I'm just
how we
saying.
play this is.
I'm just
Yeah, go
saying.
ahead.
I'm just saying. Trust but verify.
My
Kissing
concern
her
is.
style.
I
Here's
don't
my
want
thoughts.
to trust her. My concern is she won't trust us if we also verify. Go ahead, sister. Sorry.
But that is right. I want to foster a good relationship with her in our house. And it is her house. It is her lands. This is her home.
No, I hear what you're saying, sister. Just remember what happened the last time that we completely trusted someone.
And it happened to her, only worse.
Oh, this sister. If her home's forces seem like something we cannot overcome, we don't leave her there. If it's something we can, although with difficulty, maybe it's worth the risk.
I agree. I think with the Ironwoods being just as involved in having to participate in this action as well as us, they will be just as distracted. And they're down one of their sons. So they have fewer resources. Do the Ironwoods, I mean, I know there was Cletus is the dead one?
No.
Cletus is the heir to House
Heir.
Ironwood. Archibald, a cousin, Archibald is the one that died.
Okay. They're down a male warrior.
They're down their spare.
I will
Also,
say,
a quick out of character reminder: House Ironwood is mustering at Skyreach with House Fowler, which is kind of King Robert and Prince Doran slapping him in the face, because House Ironwood's title is the fucking Warden of the Stoneway, and they're being sent to go help somebody else somewhere else instead of being in charge of the Stoneway operations. So they're probably in even more disarray than you guys, because they're having to take their army somewhere else to muster instead of even like having a week. So House Ironwood's probably kind of a shit show right now, on account of being kind of slapped in the face by King Robert and Prince Doran for taking the wrong side in some recent kerfluffle in King's Landing. You might have heard about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, it's all very well that we've got the King's word on our side in terms of Lady Danet, but like the King's word isn't going to mean much if they kill us all before we get to complain to the King about them betraying us. You know.
Understood.
I will also say, Lady Danet is aware that House Ironwood stood next to the Lugases as they used her.
Mm.
She may not trust us, but I would be very surprised if she trusts them.
I suppose it's hard to know without asking her, and even if we asked her, we wouldn't necessarily get what she really.
But put an arm on Adam's shoulder. Ultimately, Adam, you're right. We have to trust and that risk ourselves to some degree.
I mean, perhaps a compromise can be found in that we don't have someone observing full time, as it were, but we certainly have someone stop by to check in for the first little while at least.
I like the
Because
idea of having.
then we're just being attentive and trying to help the house back on its feet. That's not spying, but it just but it would have the byproduct of at least letting us have a peek in, just in case.
With her issues with men, one of the reasons I suggest that somebody who reports to Aunt Elia may make a good choice.
That makes me excited.
I think that's a decent idea. I certainly think that we should send reliable women with her as well as men, because, well, what she's been through, she's going to need people on her side.
There's one other issue, and that is her small folk may still be afraid of our banner. Lucas has used it in their attack.
That is also true. I'm not really sure how to address that.
It's unorthodox, but I wouldn't mind wearing House Janet colors on the trip over there.
That's more than unorthodox, like out of character league. That would be
That would be
a big deal. And
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
shameful
yeah.
to House Nymaryen.
I am aware of that.
yeah. I'm not doing that.
Well, I mean,
Very well
I mean,
done.
I don't know how much good this would do, but I mean, perhaps if you were using your
We should.
your personal sigils rather than the house sigils. I mean, I know that they're similar, but that
We should still have someone fly her sigil. I think
will have her. I mean, I don't
she
think
has
we.
no.
But the thing is, like, carrying a false banner is actually a bad thing that we shouldn't do.
Well, it would be a false banner if we can assign some guards to her personally, and they could then fly her banner.
I mean, if, Rusty, like, is Adam good? Like, does he by any chance know the kind of actual legalities of this?
I mean, they are your banner house now. So, this isn't something that should ever have to come up. So there's not, if it's a historical precedent that has made it into the history books, it has been rival houses flying false banners to get close and betray somebody. You certainly, none of you have ever heard of a lord flying the banner of one of their bannermen to assuage the fears of small folk.
I guess I'm like, what I'm meaning is, like, legally speaking, if Luke were to have men using the Danet banner who were actually from our house, would that be against the law, so to speak, or considered dishonorable? Like, or would they need to formally become sworn to House Danet?
In the interests of us cutting this short, instead of setting a convoluted legal precedent and also needing to make, like, every seamstress in Wyvern dress do a whole ton of work, I think it would be completely appropriate if you guys were to arrive with people flying the Danet banner and the House Nymaryen banner as part of the same entourage. The same way that we've occasionally seen, for instance, on the show, Joffrey do that shit combining Lannister and Baratheon. Like, there's a precedent for coupling banners in a way like that.
Well,
So,
I mean, that seems like the best solution then.
Yeah, ultimately, that is what I'm suggesting. After the other idea was started out, so yeah.
that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, definitely don't just have our guys pretend to be House Danet, because that's it.
No. Mind you, if I had men swear to her, they would swear to her. They would not be ours anymore. But yes, I'm with you. I make no deception.
I also think that we should be leaving a contingent in the Danet lands to defend them because they are more vulnerable, and make sure the small, like what small folk are left, are protected. Because
Yeah.
rather than drawing troops away from there, when we've got pretty healthy numbers already. We don't
Yeah.
really need them, and we don't want to leave their land.
Whoa. My Discord is completely messed up right now. Oh, wow. Hold on, everybody. Let me see if I can get them back. Right, I'm typing to them. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Things look good now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good now. Felicia, completely start over. Because I could hear you in real life, but I couldn't hear like any of that on Discord. So it was basically at the point that Felicia started that it broke. So don't do that again, but save.
Okay. Okay, looking at our banner houses, the other ones besides Danet have their own garrison troops. House Bridington has two, and we ourselves, if I'm reading this correctly, what is that? Is that the cost? The minus?
Yeah, the numbers in there are the out of character metacurrency costs of them. For the record, House Bridington has 2 garrison units because House
Yes.
Bridington has 2 towers.
Yes, I was gonna say that as well. Like, it's not an extra one. At the 2 ends of their lands, there are 2 towers. Now everyone's frozen again. Oh crap! Come on, Discord. Ugh. I don't know why it's doing this. Oh no. It was behaving so well up until right now. But yeah, so 2 towers at the ends of the ends of the lands for House Bridington. They have a garrison in each tower, so it would be unfortunate to screw that up. So yeah, we're probably going to suggest pulling either an archer from the House Sandstorm or a cavalry unit. We'll see how it goes. Probably a unit of cavalry, to be honest. That way it's a little more mobile. Hopefully Discord starts working pretty soon. Okay, well I just lost. Okay. Oh.
Hi.
Alright.
Right.
Okay, Felicia is turning it off and turning it back on. This has been really weird. Through all of that, all of the rest of us were frozen, except for Erica, but only Erica on Twitch, not Erica on Discord.
Yeah, you know why?
Yeah.
I can explain that. It's because in the Discord call, I'm still moving, but the rest of you are frozen, and so the program that we use was capturing me, but not anyone else.
Right, because it's going straight from Erica to Twitch, so Erica to Twitch was working, but the rest of us to Erica was not, so it was really weird.
Yeah, literally whatever I see on my computer is what Twitch sees. So, yeah, that's why.
So, sorry about those tech issues, everybody. At least we know for a nice change of pace from like 22 episodes ago that it's like Discord shit in the bed, not like my computer or something. So, we're just going to keep on trying to play around it. I believe we were leaving off with Felicia, once again, sharing concerns about the security of Danet lands, which again, you guys haven't checked on yet.
Now, Sandstorm has the the bottom of the power holdings, it says Green 1, Garrison 2, Archer 3, all in
Okay.
one row.
That is a unit of garrison that are also archers.
Okay.
You combine garrison stats with archer stats. So yes, Aunt Elia Sandstorm, the badass archer woman of Dorne, even her household guards are super cool archers. So they can shoot at people instead of just standing on the walls. Much like I can shoot greetings to people who dare to raid our channel, because like your rating is good rating.
Welcome.
Thanks for swinging by. We are currently in the middle of a half in character, half out of character war council, as our Dornish house here in Westeros has been summoned to war by none other than Prince Oberyn Martell himself, and they're trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do with their bannermen and how many troops they're going to borrow, how many troops they're going to leave behind to watch their lands, and complicating all of this, in the last few sessions, they got a new banner house back. A banner house that they lost 20 years ago, that they have hated and kind of crapped on for 20 years. Like they blocked up the rivers and streams going to their lands.
Well, Granddad did.
God. That's you. That's they. So they just got that house back, and they're trying to kind of navigate the kind of political situation there too, and trying to plan a military campaign without knowing what the heck they're leaving at home. And then we had Discord crap out on us, so we lost about the last 5 minutes. But let's go back to Felicia, who is playing the heir to House Nymaryen, expressing concerns about the situation.
All right, we have no extra garrison units to share out. What we have a plethora of are archers and cavalry from our two banner houses.
Yes.
And as far as like men at arms that we could leave in charge of these troops, is there any NPC that you guys can think of that I may have forgotten who would fit this role fairly well?
Out of character note, we haven't really named a lot of like officers in your all army because it just hasn't come up yet. So there's that. Or if you wanted to skip straight to other named NPCs at your disposal, you've got Sir Adam Bridington, who is a knight from the Vale, and his honor is like beyond repute. And his right-hand man is kind of the only right-hand man we've named. That is Septon Jim, who is a retired man-at-arms himself. So Septon Jim might be someone you could send, or Sir Adam, or maybe even Wooly Will. Like you guys have a couple, NPCs. Like you get from her training you, Aunt Elia would break some shit if you went back on that and you were like, go babysit the Danet lands. Like Aunt Elia would not take that very well. But you do still have some other, maybe more responsible NPCs, including also the Master at Arms here at House Nymaryen, depending on who else stays at House Nymaryen. But you've got your Master at Arms, you've got Septon Jim, you've got Sir Adam Bridington, you've got Wooly Will. So when we can, let's try to use existing NPCs instead of introducing new ones. But you have several guys with a lot of honor, and like especially a Septon might kind of be a good way to go because he's also like he might be a good call because he's a retired military guy that could still do military guy stuff, but he might seem a little less threatening than the rest.
Right.
And if nothing else, you could perhaps take him along just on the day trip to look to the souls of the Danet people and then decide whether or not he stays. So that could be some cunning Nymaryen bullshit.
That's the plan. Earthworm Jim. I hate you. Okay.
That was a good game though. So
take half a dozen cavalrymen with us. It'll be her and me, Sept and Jim, and whoever else wants to come. I guess Luke wanted to come.
Adam, you are supposed to be the clever one. The Queen of Thorns said so. Do you want to like take stock of Danet's stuff? Like you're probably the most equipped to like figure out what their wealth score should be and stuff like So
Yeah.
part of the taking stock sounds kind of up Adam's alley, and that would leave Bela at home to do military stuff while the rest of you take a road trip. That seems like a split that might make sense. I don't know. I'm just trying
I mean, generally, but like I kind of didn't want to sort of pile on and leave one person behind. That looks like, So I mean, but yeah, you make a point. I guess also it would make sense because like Adam worries about Luke putting his foot in it, so may just come along to make sure that goes okay. I guess he would also probably be kind of hovering a bit because he knows Luke's going to go and threaten Norris at some point, so he maybe wants to try and head that off before they go.
Just randomly, like as we leave.
So the current plan is to leave tomorrow morning. So you guys do kind of have the rest of afternoon and evening free. What I have planned for this week of loose preparation / montage is you guys are all coming and going from the solar and the hall and the courtyard to check on the stables, and like whoever wants to be out of scene can be out of scene. You guys are all just kind of coming and going all over the place. So we're kind of freestyling it here instead of setting up a map of Wyvern's Rest and arguing about who's in earshot. It's kind of whoever wants to be in a scene can be in a scene because you guys are all a hustle and a bustle.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. I think it's worth looking at how we use some of this wealth we just got to perhaps shore up some of our situation. I don't know the state of the Danet lands, and I'm concerned about their safety given the fact that we know they had been raided a few months prior. I would like to spend some of that money to train up some garrison to defend their lands.
Out of character note, that isn't going to happen like in this week. We are going to be, after this arc where we experiment with mass combat, we are going to be falling into house management in the abstraction of months, and that's certainly something you could get the ball rolling right now. But just to be clear, like, not going to be able to get that to happen in the next week.
Okay. Well, then, at the very least, I'm putting the bug in my sister's ear, who I am presuming will have a little bit more influence over how house resources are spent in the future. So I'm just letting her know now that I'm putting my thoughts on that.
I think you're right. I think we should also look into getting some infantrymen because none of our houses have any.
To be clear, garrisons are infantrymen. They're just infantrymen that don't like to leave very much. Like they have leadership modifiers away from your lands, but they are like trained spearmen. They're just a little cheaper to buy than full infantry dudes. So like they exist, and potentially if when you can, you wanted to invest some power to turn a garrison into infantry, that's an easy, largely narrative swap. But yeah, so like it's not that you guys are nothing but melt into the mountains Dornish skirmisher types. That is very much what you specialized in. But all these garrison troops are basically infantry waiting to happen.
Okay. Well, then it's enough to know that I'm in agreement with my sister on the need to expand our military forces with some of the wealth that we've brought home
Okay.
to match with our elevated status.
Okay. I would like to discuss with Sir Bridington matters of his cavalry.
All right. Much like the PCs, basically all of your named NPCs are coming and going, except for Woolly Whale, who's mostly just sitting like in the hall and eating most of the day. Like he's just like, listen, I got one leg. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna hang out with Bessa and eat new foods. But you are able to find Woolly Will and Sir Adam around lunchtime there in the hall, and they're an interesting pair of contrasts because Sir Adam, you might remember, is kind of a Liam Neeson-y build, where he's kind of long and tall and lean, and Woolly Will of the Bells is short and slope-shouldered and hairy. But yeah, the two of them are sitting and talking, and that is where Bela finds them.
Sir Adam, if I might have a minute.
Lady Bela, of course. Even more time than that.
I'd like to call up the cavalry of your house for service.
Of course. We are at your disposal, my ladies.
In the meantime, before we set off on war, I would appreciate if 3 of your units could just patrol the lands of our houses. That is Nymaryen, Bridington, Sandstorm, and now Danit as well. That way we can just keep stock of people coming or going or doing interesting things inside of our lands during this time of preparation.
He looks grim-faced. He goes, yes, I heard about that ugly business attacking small folk. But yes, our usual rotation is 1 unit active in the field while the other 3 rest or train. But we can reverse that easily enough. We are at your disposal.
Yeah, I think for this week, reversing that will be necessary. We don't need to ride them really hard, but just the more out there, the better for now, I think. Furthermore, it might be, depending upon the security of the Danit lands, I might ask one of your cavalry units to stay behind to be a quick shock troop to scout and defend their lands in the time being.
Of course, my lady. My lads are up to whatever task you need. We sweat when we train, so we don't bleed when we fight.
That's how I like it. Great. That's all I have for that conversation. So we can just go ahead and select.
He ends with like, I'll see to it now, and heads off towards the rookery. He can get a raven there, toot sweet, and then Sept and Jim can organize a bunch of dudes. Sept and Jim can also be summoned by that raven, so he's here to go with you guys tomorrow. He can roll up tonight with the cavalry scatter to go to different banner houses. Problems are solved, and without even having Google Maps. All right, anybody else got any particular preparations or scenes they want to get to today in game before we head off? And then we're probably going to do this field trip to Danit lands, and then we're going to get back to the abstraction for about half a week.
Yeah, just real quick. I like to talk to grandfather before we leave. Sorry.
Where Woolly Will has set up shop in the feast hall, grandfather seems staked in place behind his desk at his solar, the true brain of the operation, where he's sitting and handling the day-to-day affairs of running Nymaryen lands, while then sending certain notes down to Bela and Reyna to take care of. So he's kind of seeing to the day to day, and anything martial that's got to do with all this, he's like shooting downstairs. But yeah, you know where to find him.
Yeah, I will interrupt him at some point before we leave. Grandfather,
Yes, come in.
might I have a word? I'll enter the solar.
You've already had a few, so you might as well get out what you're after. What do you need, son?
This campaign, Grandfather, do you intend us to send a message to any potential enemies? Is that what this is about?
Everything we do is a message to potential enemies. This is being honored with service to our king and our prince.
Yes, I have no issue with that. You're playing at something. You've only let us in on a little bit of the details. I'm trying to put together what that is.
You have it exactly wrong, grandson. I am the one that is privy to only a few of the details. Your sisters are seeing to the details. I am the one that is largely in the dark with this campaign.
I refer not to this campaign, but to a grander one.
He quirks an eyebrow at you and gives you a steady look.
Very well. Grandfather, keep your secrets. Something is up and I want to figure what it is. And one day I will know it.
He,
Wow.
one day many shall, but for now, concern yourself with the Vulture King. I want your head full of foolish thoughts, and then you find your belly full of arrows soaked in feces. These brigands, nothing to worry about for a fighter with his head in the game. Keep your head in the game.
Yes. Grandfather, during the trial of 7, as I faced down Nathan Lugas, mouth of a man, it felt for a moment maybe history might repeat itself, but we prevailed. I just want you to know that despite anything else, I am here to help the family. Anyway, so.
Of course you are. All of us are here to help the family.
Of course, Grandfather. Thank you for your time. And it's good to be home.
Is glad to. Wyvern's Rest is glad to have you back in its halls, even if only briefly before riding off again to blood.
But what I ride off to matters less than what I come back to. So, thank you, Grandfather.
All right. He looks back down to his desk full of stuff, because as usual, it is a scattering of papers that only make sense to him, but he insists it makes sense to him. The same way like everybody's PC desktop is exactly what works for them. That's his literal desktop. He's like, no, don't fucking touch that. It was crooked because I was going to read it next, right? Like everybody, each of you got that talk when you were little and going into the Solar. Like Reyna wanted to learn about, this missive from King's Landing. And like Bela wanted to read about troop dispositions. Like everybody, like one at a time, had their turn getting a stern talking to about not disturbing the papers because they're where they need to be for his organization.
And don't touch my fucking thermostat.
Yeah. Just put on a sweater and feel cold.
Why did Lady Olena see this saucy drawing?
Oh my god, no!
Boudoir paintings of
Don't say it.
An erotic woodcut.
So, that will wrap up on that horrifying note. Because I'm just thinking of how much work would have to go into them, and Yeah, it's just it gets worse the longer you think
She
about
planned
it.
it out. It was very detailed.
Well, what a lush garden you have, my lady.
Everyone says that like senior care facilities are freaking orgies all the time because nobody has anything like left to lose. But like that doesn't mean I need to quite think about it yet because as you may recall from earlier in the stream, my wife is in the prime of her life.
Oh my
So
god. Bringing that up repeatedly, I don't think is the
That's-
wisest.
Damn.
Yeah, I think bringing it up is not helping.
so
It's so funny.
going from my unique relationship to my loved one, let's go check in on Adam and Oris.
Yeah, well, Adam will try and
He's
find.
gonna fight you.
Yeah, my brother says he wants to fight you.
Beat you up.
He'll try and find Oris at a time where he's not super busy and distracted because he doesn't. Oh, and that would kind of undermine the checking in if he was sort of too busy to really engage.
Checking on him here in early afternoon after this most recent sibling discussion of riding to Danet Lands and stuff. You can spot him in the courtyard where certain paths of hustle and bustle are going on, just like in, I don't know, like The Sims or whatever, or like a real-time strategy where your mooks are always on kind of the same backseat fortsy. And in a corner that is away from that hustle and bustle of riders coming and going and reports coming in and people running to check inventories, off in a corner out of the way, you see Oris fighting.
Who's he fighting?
He is sparring with Obara Sand, while
Okay.
Elia Sand and Aunt Elia and the Squire Damon Sand and Prince Oberyn Martell are
A lot of sand here.
in various stages of pointedly paying attention versus lounging in the sun like a cat. Like the latter being Prince Oberyn just doesn't seem to be paying attention, but you know he is. Yeah, they're all just kind of in that corner, out of the way of house business, because they're kind of a step removed from the chain of command here, and they seem to be entertaining themselves, while Obara is fighting with Oris's hammer, and Oris is fighting with Obara's spear.
Okay. Well, that's quite an audience. Yeah. Adam will kind of join in watching. I mean, he'll not join in so much with the lounging, but will kind of actively watch. He's not going to interrupt. But it's definitely interested in how this is going because that's an unusual configuration going on.
Yeah, and I mean, even coming off the heels of a whole ass tourney in King's Landing, like it's a pretty good fight. You know, it looks like they traded weapons either out of bravado or to make the fight last a little longer, or maybe both. But yeah, it looks like they've been kind of at it for a while. Oris, I should have mentioned, I'm sorry, he doesn't have a shirt on because he's in Dorne and it's hot, and because. What? No, I forgot to mention that at
And
first.
we oiled him up earlier, so he's nice and shiny.
Yeah, and he's all buttered up because that's the traditional.
What we do.
It's
Buttered up.
But
Really?
he is shirtless, but not actually glistening with butter stolen from the kitchen or anything.
I was going to say Bella has gone too far.
Has he though?
So yeah, that's what's going on. Oris seems to be getting the better of her, and she seems to be surprised by that. And even young Elia is like, I thought northern men were supposed to be slow. Well, he's not in armor. And she's kind of trying to justify to herself, like, how is my sister? How are any of my sisters losing at something, except to one another? Right? So she seems to be kind of going like, oh, well, if he was in armor, I would say that was cheating, but he's not in armor, so I'll say that's cheating too, right? Like she's just doing that like 15-year-old girl logic of trying to make sense of her worshipped eldest sister, kind of losing out. So she's kind of, making sense of it herself. Um, but yeah, that's what you walk up on, and they continue at it for a while. Nobody's drawing blood or anything. They're just kind of sparring. It's not even fighting to submission in a tourney. It's just a sparring session.
Well, Lady Elia, I imagine if your sister is unaccustomed to an enormous heavy hammer, that might be slowing her down somewhat.
Obara can fight with anything.
Oh, I have no doubt. Just, I mean, she's doing very well.
And anyways, that great big lout shouldn't be used to fighting with a spear.
He's not allowed.
Yes, he is. He's bigger than Obara.
That-
He's some sort of northern giant or something. I've heard about them in books.
I've heard
Giant and lout are very different things.
Well, they both mean a big man that's bigger than me. So, all of them are louts. Lots of them are louts. You're not a lout, though. I bet I could beat you in a fight.
I'm probably not going to argue with that. But then again, I'm a cripple, so you would be attacking someone who is at a disadvantage, and that would be dishonorable.
But easy.
But it's something easy, worth doing.
It is if it's fun.
Oh, so you want to dunk me and fight me?
I could dunk you while I fought you, or I could fight you while I dunked you. In the water, both of our legs would be slow.
I just want you to know that the flirting going on is killing Luke somewhere quietly.
Well, I bet I could beat you in an archery contest.
They don't call me Lady Archer, they call me Lady Lance. The other Elia uses a bow. I fight my way.
Well, of course someone's going to win if they fight their way.
That's the point. That's how you win, making someone else fight you in your way.
Not very neighborly of you.
Smart girl.
I don't fight my neighbors. My neighbors, I spar with.
But you're not saying you want to spar me, you're saying you want to fight me.
Well, you haven't been very neighborly lately, have you?
I've been away a long time.
Indeed. And we fight northerners.
I'm not a northerner.
Says who?
Oh. Says me.
You just admitted you've been away a long time.
Being away in the north doesn't make me a northerner.
Perfect.
She just lifts a skeptical eyebrow.
It's just like I can't believe I've just found someone who just makes me 5 years old again.
Adam's just going, how is a girl flustering me? That's not right.
You're distracting me from my
She's
work.
not even oiled up.
Anyway, stop distracting me. I'm trying to watch this fight.
You have the distinct impression that she's enjoying this greatly. Like, she just loves, like, poking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can tell
And
she's
it's-
having fun with
And it's completely working because, like, Adam's getting all, like, grouchy. and because he's clearly not winning the debate, is going, well, you're distracting me anyway, I'm going to ignore you now.
You hear a soft chuckle from Damon Sand behind you, who just seems used to listening to Elia do this, and you wonder if he's got a bet going with Prince Oberyn or with Obara or with Elia about it. But he just seems like yeah, no, like that's another one. That'll be a notch on her belt. You get that a satisfied chuckle from him safely behind you lot, like out of it. He's like, this is fun when he does it to someone else.
Yeah, I guess on hearing that, Adam is going to kind of, like, just turn his head about, like, does she do this with everyone?
He nods. Every chance she gets.
Oh dear, I'm not special. Well.
Oh, I didn't say that.
uh, Uncle,
Yes, nephew. He's
I,
still like he's laying on some like they almost have privacy here because it looks like a couple like barrels of stuff have been like stacked in here to make room somewhere else. So there's like four barrels stretched out, and Prince Oberyn Martell is laying on his back atop them, just stretched out, uh, ankles crossed, and without like looking up. Just yes,
yeah, I guess like, Adam will kind of make his way over to him and like still be watching what's going on, but we'll kind of go and join him for like while the fight's still going on. You mentioned something about my leg, about your maester's. Do you mean that your maesters can maybe do something about it?
As you approach, um, he swings his feet down and sits up, and you know, gets to his feet, which is kind of a sign of respect and seriousness. When you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, like he's gonna listen. And he gives you a nod. He says, "I have investigated Soot's injuries, and so have the maesters of our house, handpicked for this very reason. You may have heard." There was a bit of an incident some years ago with the eldest Tyrell lad.
Yes, Willis. I had heard.
Indeed. Uh, while we were riding at one another, his horse fell, much like your horse fell. His leg was caught, much like your leg was caught. We have done what we can. He will likely never be the dancer he once was, but he can sit in the saddle again, and he can walk. And we have discovered certain ointments that ease the pain from time to time.
I see. The maester at White Harbour was not nearly so optimistic. I'm surprised.
His wretched shrew of a grandmother does not approve of our relationship, but he and I have corresponded significantly since the accident. And this one, and he gives you a kind of a sidelong look, actually was an accident.
Well, I'm glad that there are no hard feelings.
Not between he and I. Between his wretched shrew of a grandmother and all of us, I cannot say. But
Well,
do know does not seem to like.
well, Lady Olenna is a unique personality. I shall say, tactfully.
Indeed. A formidable woman that I hope will die soon. Says it in a way that you have no idea how much he's kidding or not.
Yeah, Adam doesn't know what to do with that. That's just like, well, I mean, I have to accompany Reyna and Lucaris to the Danetlands tomorrow. But if you think that what your maester knows can help me, I would gratefully accept that help.
I will speak to your grandfather's maester, Elston, I believe his name is. I will see what he has available, and if I can, I will prepare you an ointment. You can try it, see how it helps you. These things, they are fickle. When the sky is dark with clouds, sometimes they do not work. If it is too hot or too cold, sometimes they do not work. But we will find the one that works for you.
Well, the warm weather seems to be helpful, at least. It was a lot more, well, perhaps just how recent the injury was, but also I don't think the cold helped.
the cold almost never does.
But thank you. I do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to helping on this campaign against the Vulture King.
We're family, boy. There are no thanks needed.
Like I guess like you'll kind of look over at where the fight's going on, and just kind of call over like, stop messing around, Oris, and finish her.
All right, 1 second. I need to go through about 6 inappropriate things Prince Oberyn could say to that, and figure out which one will hurt Adam the most. It's important to me. No, let's see.
What's kind of asking for it?
Like, I'm just saying, you're walking right into that one with like arguably the most overtly sexual character in the stories.
I'm okay with this.
I feel like Oberyn.
He will just Prince Oberyn will just he will give a little bit of a smirk, and he'll be like, he actually finished her about 2 minutes ago, but it is polite to make it more certain than that.
What?
The gentleman always finishes the lady first.
Adam will just make a bunch of flustered noises, basically.
On some plane of existence, Lucas high-five Oberyn.
But of course, I only mean their fight. On horseback, especially in a race, I believe she could take him. And perhaps if they both had spears. But this combination, other combinations, there are many combinations, nephew. No, the bastard boy has the better of her.
Many combinations.
Well, yeah. What the?
What? Nope. I was just practicing some sign language.
Oh my god! I can't believe I started that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think like Adam sort of stutteringly, I guess, will be sort of certainly from what I've seen, it's like Sororis is unparalleled with the hammer. So, yes, as you say, things could be quite different if there were different circumstances.
Prince Oberyn glances around a bit, and the way you came over to talk to him, the others kind of drifted a little bit away. So without changing his tone, and now he seems to be watching the fight. He's got his arms crossed, but he just slides his eyes sideways towards you. He goes, "Have you told him?"
Told him what?
You know what? Have you told him?
You know.
This is
Well,
where look at this shit, gets this shit from. So
well, he knows.
And
It's a bit one-sided, unfortunately.
that happens, especially with strapping northern men. Sometimes it takes them time to come around. But you should tell him again. You both might die fighting the Vulture King.
Oh, that's a horrible thought.
Or only one of you might die fighting the Vulture King, and that is worse.
Well, I was going to speak to him before we left. Of course, I didn't want to interrupt this spirited fight.
It's not a fight. Neither of them are bleeding.
Well,
But
you know what
talk
I
to
mean. Words are hard, Uncle.
but they can help other things also get that way. He says with an absolute like dad joke smirk. Like on top of like the Prince Oberyn Martell stuff. He's just like, haha, I'm a dad also. Also, I'm wearing socks under these sandals right now.
Oh no,
Oh, wow.
no, not that.
Uncle.
We're so concerned about him being the Red Viper, we never thought about the fact he was a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like Adam goes like bright red.
And you absolutely recognize, and perhaps it's because it's like a profile shot, so he's watching the fight the way that young Elia was watching the fight while she was sparring with you. For a moment, there is absolutely no doubt about the father-daughter relationship. Like their eyes look the same as he gives you that sideways smirk and you turn red. Like it's the same sort of like, yep, no, like she totally gets it from him. Like
Yeah.
even if I didn't know that they were father and daughter, like for a moment they look exactly alike. That kind of smug sideways glance, taking pleasure in your discomfort type of thing. That just that glance, that look, you're like shit. No, like she has his eyes. Like
Yeah. I do not have your confidence, Uncle. I rather sometimes wish I did.
act like you do until you do. If you don't talk to him and hear his eyes kind of nod back towards the fight and also towards the other two people watching the fight, Damon and Elia, he goes, if you don't talk to him, someone else might.
I think that ship may have sailed, but, well, thank you for the advice.
I'll bring you the ointment later tonight. I will listen at your chamber door first to make sure I'm not interrupting a sparring session.
Oh, thank you, that's very considerate.
By the way, I like to think us here on Sea of Spirits is primarily a dating advice show with some
Right?
role play and fantasy interwoven.
Right, well, like that's been actually like quite a good little pep talk for Adam. So he's kind of going to get up and kind of go to the sort of edge of. I'm presuming there's like a little bit of a fence of some kind.
Not really. It's just like if they fight too close to people, the people back up.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
the rest of it is actual like corners of the inside of the courtyard.
Yeah.
So it's just like if the two of them get too far away, everybody skitters a few steps out and goes like whoop whoop,
Sure.
and then
No,
they,
that's
it's
fair.
not like a boundary or anything.
The fence is how close are you willing to get?
Right, but yeah, he's gonna just kind of go up and kind of go to where the sort of edge of that safe zone is. I guess we're just gonna kind of call out like, Zororis, a minute, please, when you're ready.
You don't hear any sort of response at first. He just continues attacking with the spear. He does not fight with the spear the way Bela does, in that he's not doing the flippy, jumpy, almost wushu style that we saw from Oberyn Martell on the show. It's a much more practical, grounded style, but he is still fighting with like the whole ass spear, like not just he's the head, the butt, the shaft in the middle. Nothing. Sorry. But it's a more kind of practical, no nonsense style that fits his physique and normally fighting in armor and all that. So he doesn't answer. He keeps fighting. You can tell that Obara is getting a little tired from the hammer. She's choking up on it a little bit more instead of swinging it, wildly and that sort of thing. And his is an absurdly large hammer compared to most men. It's not Robert's warhammer, but it's still larger than most use in a fight. Um, but eventually, he catches her off guard by fighting the way you've seen Bela fight, in that instead of a straight up strike, he lets a swing kind of carry her momentum past him. He sticks the butt end down between her legs, and then he uses his height and reach and just like lifts and uses the spear like a lever and just like lifts her up off her feet with the spear tangled up in her legs and just dumps her on the ground and then brings the spear point down over her as she's landing. And then he gives her, yeah, it's just gonna be like an Oris grunt of like, yeah, and he pulls up short on like the thrust, and he goes, I think that makes 5. And she gives him a growl from down there, and you can tell she's thinking about like, what can I do with the hammer from down here? Ah, fuck, nothing. Fine. And she goes, fine. And she reaches up for help up, and she goes, 5-4 then. And young Elia sings out, 5-3. Like this disappointed, but now I'm gonna rub your nose in it because you let me down. Kind of call. And within a moment or two, they are done. There's a quick bit of some toweling off from a nearby bucket. They drink a little bit of the water that isn't splashed on them, and the prince, or sorry, a Prince of Dorne, leads his daughters and his squires away. Oh, look, you happen to be alone with Oris. How convenient.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, Admiral have given a sort of polite golf clap, I guess, with the fight finished. Well done. That was impressive.
Oris has his hammer back. He has the head of the hammer resting on the ground, and he's kind of half-assed leaning on like the butt end of the hammer handle. He looks pretty tired. Like it looks like they've been at it for a while. And he goes, "Thanks. It was. She fights hard."
Well, I mean, you've seen Bela fight, so well, that's Dornish women are fierce.
It fights like Bela in a body like Maya Stone.
Well, yes, she's very impressive too. Like, is it like while they were kind of lounging there, like, did they have like anything to drink? Like, did they have like?
Yeah,
water?
like there's a bucket of water with like a big ladle in it,
Yeah.
and they, it looks about half empty.
Yeah, like Admiral fetch him some water. Just
He will gulp it down. He splashes some on his chest. His muscles ripple in the sunlight.
thanks for that.
You're welcome.
I haven't made
Going in the
splash
bank. So we didn't get a chance to talk the other night, so I just wanted to check if you're all right.
He gives a bit of a sigh, like he knew this was coming. He had decided he was gonna do it, but he's still not happy when it's happening. He goes, "I'm fine. He lied to me for so long, and I know he had a reason, and I know it was a good one, but there's a lot of lies to eat, and I felt like one fist was a fair trade."
I think that was more than fair. I think it was very understandable as a response. I'd have probably done the same in your shoes.
He gives you a grin that disarmingly reminds you of the recent Martells and Sands you met. He goes, you would have tried.
Yes, I suppose. I'm not that strong, so. But what I mean is I can understand the anger there, and I know that we didn't help because, well, we didn't exactly clamour to tell you either. And I'm sorry about that.
He lets out another kind of gusty sigh, and he goes, I know, but I know why you didn't.
So sorry, Rusty. I got booted out of the app again. You're gonna just like need to just start that sentence again. Sorry.
Okay. He sighs again. He just says, I know, but I know why you didn't. So I'm not gonna punch you for it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Like, thank all the gods.
Yes.
Or-
thank
Or
seven for mercies.
or Bela, Reyna, or Luke neither. Or Will again.
Well, I mean, about that, I feel like I should just warn you a little bit that Luke may come by and ask you not to hit Sir Will again, and his tone might sound threatening or aggressive, but I spoke with him, and it's not trying not to get angry. It's just he has to stand up for the house's honor and all that sort of thing. So he sort of feels he has to say it like that, but he doesn't mean any badness against you.
It wouldn't be the first time he talked to me that way. But he probably wouldn't do it again. The thing is, not just me. It's a squabble between two knights and none of his affair. And even if I don't beat him for it, Willie Will might.
I agree. I tried to advise him not to do it, but he's not going to listen to me. So I felt the next best thing I could do is let you know that it was coming, so that perhaps it wouldn't escalate. I don't want any more fighting. Well, you know, I don't want any more of this. I don't want any more of this kind of fighting between people who should be supporting each other.
You want me killing different Dornishmen. I know. If he comes and talks to me, I'll tell him to bugger off, but I won't hit him unless he makes me. And
I think
I'll advise him not to let Willie Will know that he's trying to play nursemaid.
That's probably about the best I can ask for, so thank you. I suppose that just sort of leaves me with the more difficult question of, are we all right?
I'm a little bit worried about your sisters, because I think you're going to be absolute shite as a squire. Out of shape as you are, the two of them all needy and highborn castle folk and the like, but I'll give you some tips if I can. You helped me be more comfortable in the Red Keep. I'll help make sure that you don't completely shit the bedroll while trying to care for the needs of warriors in the field. Prancing ladies in King's Landing, I'm sure you could dress just fine. Though you might not like it. But putting armor on warriors in the field, you may need a bit of more help.
He just called your
and
ass
he's
out.
giving you this, like, half smirk that's making it clear that it's affectionate teasing. But you're Adam. So
Bye, Adam.
First of all, how dare you? Goodness. I think Lady Olenna was the last person to speak to me like that. I'm somewhat at a loss for words, but you know what? I'm afraid that of failing my sisters too. So I can't say that it's unfair.
He gives you a grin. He goes, I'm a knight now. I'm allowed to dare things. Supposed to, in fact. Charged by the king himself to be brave in the name of the warrior.
Oh, you're
But
you're not gonna get a big head about this, are you?
because of you lot, I traded a lifetime of lies and secrets for something even worse I've got to carry around. But also getting a sir in front of my name. So the least I can do is enjoy that bit. You're not a fancy castle folk lad, and me a squire who has to listen to you all the time. In fact, I think now that you're officially a squire again, I'm supposed to be able to tell you what to do.
The dynamic has shifted.
I suppose you're right. So, are you going to boss me around?
Sorry, just Adam suddenly like, step on me, daddy. like just
So I didn't picture Ab in a bed, like her rose in his mouth. You're right.
he just gives you a let's see here. He reaches out and tousles your hair in a way that is pleasingly affectionate, but perhaps not in a way that Adam wants or likes.
Yeah, but
goes,
he's probably gonna like duck his head down and shake it, kind of go like, don't do that.
We're fine, Adam. We might not be what you want us to be, but I'm not mad at you no more, and I won't call you a prissy bitch when I'm dipping my cups.
Well, I'm glad because I couldn't bear us going off to fight without having made peace.
You're not worried about chasing some bandits and some healers, are you?
I mean, I am a bit. I mean, or is you literally never know the minute?
That's why you can't worry about it.
You and I have different ways of approaching things we can't control.
There's plenty of things that I can't control, and plenty of things that I like to brood on. That's a word that Bessa used when she walked in on me and Will last night. Brood, she said. She said it meaner. But I know I brood. But this is something that I know that I can control because I train for it. I'm ready for it. I wear armor for it. And I'll kill the other bastard faster than he can kill me. Guaranteed. And you'll just be in the back shooting your bow and stuff. Yeah, we'll be fine. And your sisters will be fine. They've got the prettiest squire in all Dorne. Well, maybe second. And he thumbs over his shoulder where Damon Sand walked away.
Well,
That's your rival.
That's very kind of you, Oris.
Everyone will be fine. You'll see.
I dearly hope so.
After all that fucking about in King's Landing, just chasing some brigands and some hills will be good, clean fun.
Famous last words.
I've already seen you put down a couple bandits. You're Adam the Archer now. That just means you'll be even better at this nonsense.
Well, I intend to do my best, and I will feel better about it now that I have one less thing to worry about.
He grunts a little and sighs. He looks a little exasperated for a moment, and then he goes, "Me too."
That's as much as
So
you're getting.
It takes him about 5 seconds, but then he admits it. He goes, me too.
We're not good at having neat lives, are we, Oris?
Just got the ones we got given.
Mm.
Yours seems a bit neater than mine.
Oh, that's because I'm a preening pons.
He does not argue with you. Speaking of which, though, you notice as he goes over to recover his shirt and tug it on, yeah, he's wearing his good outfit. Like, it looks like he just never thought to change before this. So he's wearing, like, the fancy clothes that you got him. And, like, that's what he was just fighting with the bastard in. But, like, he took his shirt off first. So that's progress, right? Like, some of the lessons stuck.
Only- that still looks really good on you. I have good taste.
He just does another Orisian grunt because he's not used to acknowledging that sort of thing. But yeah, then the two of you can walk across the courtyard together and get back to it.
Little did anyone know when he was saying that looked good on you, he was really saying I love you.
I'm pretty sure most viewers get that. And siblings and yeah, just your uncle. Well, uncle.
It's Adam's equivalent of as you wish.
So with that, as far as I'm concerned, I can't think of any scenes that I'm just rooting and tooting and wanting to get going with 10 minutes to go. I promise there isn't a cliffhanger planned every session, so I'm not looking to cut you guys off with like, oh no, suddenly the Kingslayer arrives or whatever. So like we're not gonna do any weirdness there.
I find it.
Well, we do have 10 minutes, so that would get us down to about 9.5. Because Jamie Lannister ain't nothing to fuck with stats in this.
No, he cares for us about 2 seconds.
He's trouble. Just the way the math works here. But I can't really think of anything else that I have planned for now. I feel like we can kick off next session with the road trip down to Danet Lands, and if we want, I feel like we can certainly justify Bela wanting to come along to get a look at their territory so she can update her local map, just so that way we can have like the whole party go somewhere.
Okay.
So we'll figure that out in the next couple weeks. But does anybody else have a scene that they want to kick off that can probably get finished before 6, just to get some more roleplay in a satisfying manner?
I do want to say I want to continue to befriend the 2 girls, but I don't really have anything in character specifically to say to them.
So, yeah, it's enough to background to say we have been hanging out, right? That sort of thing. Like we'll hang out at the meals, we'll chat some, yada yada. My assumption is most of you are doing that with these cousins of yours.
Right.
But any other particularly pressing scenes, or might we actually finish not only on time but a few minutes early for once, which I legitimately think might be the first time in 23 episodes.
One question.
All right, what do we got?
Does grandfather naysay in any way my plan to take Iris Danet back to her house?
When you approach him about it, he will pause for a moment in the middle of writing a letter. You think you notice the Tyrell seal on the nearest letter that is normally like what he's responding to. Like he lays them side by side. It's upside down. The edges of the scroll are curling, but you think you see the Tyrell sigil there. But he pauses, like scritch, middle of a letter or like middle of a word. He stops. That should be fine. Send someone else down as well to look after Danet Lands. I understand their small folk were attacked. It just wasn't us that did it. But we'll need to make sure that they're kept safe. They, too, are now my responsibility, it would seem.
I was thinking to send Septon
he holds stock still for a moment in that like deep in thought way. He still hasn't looked up from the letter. He's
Right.
just still like on hold, processing, processing, and then he goes back to writing, and then says, "Yes, that would work, I think."
Thank you, grandfather. I'm losing face.
All right, what else we got?
I will
Robert?
add, yeah, just kind of on the side, whatever various girls Luke vetted the previous night, I like to get to know them a little bit better. Just,
Well, I mean,
he's new here. He wants to know more about the people and all that. So
you
Bill's new.
you met them in King's Landing a few weeks ago. They were having some trouble with a gate guard, but you helped their wagon get through, and then like they stayed at the Green Tree. They were
Yeah,
right
these
nearby.
assholes.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a couple of like a scullery maid and a seamstress here in the keep.
Right.
So you were just poaching some small folk. They're just some lowborn girls.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted it clear that he does care about these various people and women. He does care about the people of his homelands.
Okay. If you want to cook up names for them and get them to me before next episode, that's fine, and I can fold them in. Does anybody else have anything?
Only stuff Adam's going to kind of do before we leave is like practice the heck out of shooting his new bow, and probably in private moments in his room practicing acting like his uncle in the mirror. trying to be smooth like him.
I just assumed that was part of his daily regimen already. So yeah, that's fine. All right then. Last call, Erica. You good? Got
Sure.
anything for today?
I'll have Aunt Elia muster up her archers and guerrillas and get them to come over to Wyvern's Rest for future orders.
Sure. You can send that order. She'll send some riders, yada yada. They will be added to the stock in the weeks before next session. Give me an exact head count of just which ones you want. We're going to be doing a lot of this navigating off screen on Facebook, partially just to have it all written down somewhere so we don't get wires crossed. So we can work out those details just fine. But with that, I do believe we can just about wrap up this episode. So thank you for coming by again, everybody. Sorry we had some Discord issues midstream, but hopefully everyone's enjoying our usual mixture of teenage melodrama, romantic repartee, and the threat of looming violence. So if you are enjoying it, especially if you're a new viewer that just swung by on the raid, check us out. We'll be back here in 2 weeks, and go do a search on YouTube for A Sea of Spears, and you will find a couple dozen of our episodes already up. Well, a dozen and a half. Plenty of episodes already up. So if you like, you can go get all caught up and ready to go. And hopefully we'll see everybody back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for coming by, everybody.
Bye, everybody.